Elon Musk's journey to becoming one of the most influential figures in the world didn't start in the boardrooms of Tesla or SpaceX. It began in a small, sun-baked town in South Africa, where a young boy named Elon first started asking the big questions. What if the world could be different? What if technology could solve our greatest challenges? His curiosity was insatiable, his ambition boundless. Growing up, Elon was always the odd one out. His peers didn't quite understand his drive, and he often found himself alone, reading books about science, engineering, and space exploration. His father, Errol, a tough, intelligent man, wasn't always the supportive figure one would hope for in a young boy's life. His mother, May, a model and dietitian, was more nurturing, but her presence in Elon's life couldn't fill the void left by the absence of a positive father figure. It was clear from a young age that Elon had a different vision for the world. He was never content to simply accept things as they were. He wanted to change them. At the age of 12, Elon taught himself computer programming and created a video game, which he sold for a mere $500. That was his first taste of success, but more importantly, it was a glimpse of the limitless potential he saw in technology. From that moment, he knew that his future would be tied to the advancement of human civilization through innovation. When Elon left South Africa for Canada and later moved to the US, he carried with him that vision of a future where technology was the answer to humanity's greatest problems. It was this vision that led him to start Zip2X.com, which later became PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX, and several other ventures. Along the way, he encountered immense personal and professional challenges: financial ruin, near bankruptcy, public scrutiny, and an overwhelming sense of isolation. But through it all, his belief in the transformative power of technology kept him going. However, despite his vast accomplishments, there was something gnawing at him. He was constantly asking himself the same question: is humanity ready for the change I'm pushing for? His companies had revolutionized industries, from electric cars to private space travel. Yet, the more progress he made, the more questions arose. What if technology outpaced humanity's ability to use it ethically? What if, in striving for innovation, society lost its way? What if the very advancements that promised to save humanity could end up being its undoing? These were the questions that weighed on Elon's mind late at night. As he sat in the sprawling offices of SpaceX or the sleek, futuristic buildings of Tesla, surrounded by brilliant engineers, designers, and scientists, he often wondered if his singular focus on technological progress was enough. Was there something deeper that he was missing? It was these internal conflicts, these questions about the future, that led him to a crossroads. The world had seen his drive, his intellect, his obsession with creating a better future. But what had it cost him? His relationships, his family life, and even his own peace of mind seemed to suffer in the pursuit of progress. And yet, the idea of slowing down, of stopping to reconsider, never seemed to cross his mind. And that was when the invitation came. A letter arrived at Tesla's headquarters, sealed with the official stamp of the Vatican. The words on the page were simple: Pope Francis wanted to meet with him. Elon had received countless invitations throughout his career from world leaders, tech moguls, and philanthropists, but this was different. The Pope was known not just for his spiritual leadership, but for his outspoken views on the importance of social justice, the ethics of technology, and the future of humanity. The idea of sitting across from Pope Francis, a man who had spent his life advocating for the poor, the oppressed, and the vulnerable, intrigued Elon. They were from two very different worlds, one built on the advancement of technology, the other rooted in faith and human compassion. But maybe that was exactly why they needed to meet. Perhaps this was an opportunity to reconcile the progress of technology with the values that kept humanity grounded. As Elon read the letter again, a mix of excitement and uncertainty bubbled up inside him. The Pope's reputation for challenging the status quo, for questioning the unchecked march of technology, was well known. And Elon, who had often been at the center of controversies surrounding the ethics of his own innovations, wondered what kind of debate might unfold between them. Could they find common ground? Or would their meeting reveal irreconcilable differences? The invitation felt like the beginning of something significant. Perhaps it was time for Elon to confront those deeper questions that had been haunting him. Could technology save humanity? Or was it up to something else, something outside of his understanding? As Elon packed his bags and prepared to leave for Rome, he couldn't shake the feeling that this meeting would change the course of his life. Whatever happened, it was bound to be an intense conversation, one that could not only reshape his view on technology but also, possibly, the future of the world. Pope Francis, born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, was no stranger to struggle. His roots were in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where he grew up in a humble home, the son of Italian immigrants. From an early age, he was shaped by the values of hard work, sacrifice, and community. Unlike Elon Musk, who had been driven by a singular vision of technological progress, Bergoglio's worldview was rooted in service to others, grounded in faith, and focused on the dignity of every human life. As a young man, Bergoglio initially studied to become a chemist before deciding to follow a spiritual calling. In 1969, he entered the Society of Jesus, becoming a Jesuit priest, and over the years, he ascended through the ranks of the Catholic Church. But even as he grew in influence, his path was never one of prestige or luxury. In fact, he lived simply, always emphasizing humility, charity, and living among the people, particularly the poor. His time as Archbishop of Buenos Aires exposed him to the deep inequalities in his country. Argentina, torn apart by political violence and economic instability, created a divide that Bergoglio could not ignore. He spent countless hours in the slums, visiting families, listening to their struggles, offering them a voice when they had none. His personal connection to the people shaped his philosophy and his mission, one that emphasized human dignity and the importance of caring for the most vulnerable in society. To him, the true measure of a society's progress was not in its technological advancements, but in its ability to care for the weak and the marginalized. When Bergoglio was elected pope in 2013, he took the name Francis, inspired by Saint Francis of Assisi, known for his love of the poor and his devotion to peace. As pope, Francis continued to challenge the church and the world, urging leaders to prioritize compassion over power, service over wealth, and humility over ego. He didn't shy away from addressing the moral dilemmas of modern society, including issues surrounding consumerism, environmental degradation, and the growing influence of technology. But what about technology? Where did Pope Francis stand on the rapid advancements that were transforming the world? Unlike Elon Musk, who viewed technological progress as the key to humanity's future, Pope Francis was wary of the unchecked march of innovation. While he saw the potential for technology to do good, he also cautioned against its ability to dehumanize. He worried about the rise of artificial intelligence, the automation of jobs, and the growing wealth gap between those who controlled the technology and those who didn't. Technology, in his view, was a tool, not an answer in itself. Pope Francis's most public statement on technology came in 2015 when he issued Laudato Si', an encyclical that called for an urgent response to the environmental crisis. In this document, he addressed the dangers of consumerism and the exploitation of natural resources, but he also warned against a mindset that valued profits over people. He recognized the power of innovation but feared that technology was being used to exacerbate inequality, further alienating the poor and vulnerable. In the years that followed, Pope Francis continued to voice his concerns about the role of technology in society, especially as new advancements in artificial intelligence, robotics, and biotechnology began to reshape industries and lives. He had long believed that the solution to humanity's greatest challenges lay not in technology alone, but in a moral awakening, a recognition of the importance of human relationships, community, and a deep reverence for life. However, even as he warned against the risks of an increasingly digital and automated world, he recognized the profound role that technology could play in building bridges, fostering understanding, and serving the greater good. He was not opposed to progress, but he believed that true progress could only be achieved when it was rooted in a sense of responsibility, ethics, and an unwavering commitment to the common good. The invitation to meet Elon Musk was, for Pope Francis, an opportunity he couldn't pass up. Elon Musk was, after all, one of the most ambitious figures of the modern age, a man who was reshaping entire industries, from electric cars to space exploration. Yet, Pope Francis was wary. Could such technological advancements truly help humanity? Or were they merely distractions from the deeper moral issues that needed to be addressed? As he sat in the Vatican, preparing for the meeting, Pope Francis reflected on the challenges of his papacy. He had encountered world leaders, powerful corporations, and activists from every corner of the globe. But this meeting with Elon Musk felt different. There was an unspoken tension. On one side, there was the promise of a future that Elon Musk had been tirelessly working toward, a future driven by technology and innovation. On the other, there was the vision of a future where human dignity, compassion, and social justice were at the forefront. Pope Francis wondered what the outcome of their discussion might be. Would Musk's bold vision for the future align with his own concerns for humanity's soul? Or would their meeting only further cement their differences? As the moment approached, Pope Francis felt both a sense of responsibility and a deep curiosity about the man who had made such a name for himself by charting a path toward the stars. Despite their differences, Pope Francis saw the potential for dialogue. He had always believed in the power of conversation, of finding common ground, of listening as much as speaking. And though their perspectives on the future of humanity were starkly different, he was ready to listen. The Pope's mind was sharp, but his heart was equally so. His personal struggles with reconciling technology and faith, humanity's advancement and moral grounding, had shaped his worldview in profound ways. Now, as he awaited Elon Musk's arrival in the Vatican, he realized that this meeting might offer both of them an opportunity to reflect on what it truly meant to move humanity forward. The Vatican's grand halls echoed with the sound of footsteps as Elon Musk walked through the marble corridors, his mind racing with thoughts. For all his boldness, for all the technological revolutions he'd sparked, this meeting felt unlike any other. The centuries-old walls around him seemed to contain more than just history. They held the weight of centuries of tradition, faith, and moral authority. Here, in this sacred space, was a man who had spent his life preaching about the power of compassion, social justice, and faith. Values that Elon sometimes felt conflicted with his own laser focus on technology as the key to humanity's salvation. When he finally stepped into the room where Pope Francis awaited, Elon couldn't help but notice the contrast between them. Pope Francis, dressed in simple white robes, exuded calm and humility. There was a quiet authority in his presence, one that had been honed through decades of service to humanity. Elon, by contrast, wore his usual black jacket, an outfit that carried the weight of success and ambition. His posture was forward, driven, the way he always carried himself when facing a challenge. "Welcome, Mr. Musk," Pope Francis said with a warm smile, his voice gentle but firm. "It is an honor to meet you." Elon nodded, feeling a mixture of respect and unease. "The honor is mine, Your Holiness." The two men shook hands, and for a brief moment, they exchanged pleasantries, discussing their mutual interest in the future of humanity. Pope Francis acknowledged Elon's achievements with Tesla and SpaceX, expressing admiration for his vision of space exploration and clean energy. But beneath the cordialities, there was an unmistakable tension, an undercurrent that neither man could ignore. As they sat down across from each other, the conversation quickly turned to the subject at hand, technology and its place in the future of mankind. Elon, ever the visionary, began passionately describing his hopes for the world. He spoke about the immense possibilities that lay ahead with artificial intelligence, the colonization of Mars, and the radical transformation of transportation and energy systems through electric vehicles and solar power. "We're on the brink of something incredible, Your Holiness," Elon said, his voice tinged with excitement. "We have the potential to solve the world's greatest challenges: climate change, energy scarcity, even the survival of humanity itself. The future is in our hands, and technology is the tool that will help us get there." Pope Francis listened attentively, but there was a hint of concern in his eyes. "I understand your passion, Mr. Musk, and I share your belief that humanity can overcome its greatest challenges. But I must ask you, where does humanity itself fit into this vision? What role do we, as people, have in the world you envision?" Elon's brow furrowed slightly, caught off guard by the question. He had never doubted the transformative power of technology, nor had he considered the possibility that it might be disconnected from human values. "Humanity's role is to embrace these changes," Elon responded, leaning forward. "Technology, when used correctly, can enhance every aspect of our lives. It can allow us to live longer, healthier, and more fulfilling lives. It can provide solutions to problems that have plagued us for centuries. People don't need to worry about technology replacing them. They need to focus on adapting and using it to their advantage. Pope Francis shook his head, his expression thoughtful but serious. You speak of technology as if it is a solution unto itself. But I fear that in your vision, the human spirit, the very thing that makes us who we are, may be lost. What happens when machines do everything for us? When we no longer need to labor, to struggle, to fight for our survival? Will we lose our sense of purpose, of community? Elon hesitated for a moment. It was clear that Pope Francis's concerns were deeply rooted in his belief that technology could erode the essence of what it means to be human. This wasn't just a disagreement about how to solve global challenges. It was a clash of worldviews, of values. I think you're underestimating the potential of what we're building, Elon said, his voice gaining strength. Technology doesn't erase the human experience. It enhances it. It frees people from mundane, dangerous tasks, allowing them to focus on higher pursuits, creativity, exploration, personal growth. The more we advance, the more we can focus on what truly matters. Pope Francis's eyes softened, but his tone remained firm. I do not dispute the potential of technology, Mr. Musk, but I fear that you are so focused on what technology can do that you overlook the deeper consequences. I've seen how people are already becoming disconnected from one another, from the land, from the very earth that sustains us. I fear a future where we rely too much on technology and lose sight of what makes us truly human. The room fell silent for a moment, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Elon had always been driven by the belief that technological progress was the key to solving the world's problems. But hearing the Pope speak, he began to feel a twinge of doubt. Was it possible that in his race to change the world, he had overlooked something fundamental? The Pope continued, his voice gentler now. You see, Mr. Musk, the problem with progress is not in the innovation itself. It is in how we choose to use it. We must ask ourselves, what is the purpose of progress? Is it to create a more just, compassionate world, or is it simply to build things for the sake of building? We must remember that the most important things in life are not the things we create, but the relationships we nurture, the love we share, and the kindness we show. Elon sat back in his chair, his mind whirring. The Pope's words had struck a chord with him, but he couldn't quite let go of his belief that technology was the answer. I see what you mean, Elon said slowly, but I believe that if we don't push the boundaries, if we don't embrace the power of technology, we risk stagnating. We risk not living up to our potential as a species. Pope Francis smiled softly. Perhaps, Mr. Musk, but don't forget that true progress is not just about moving forward at any cost. It's about moving forward with purpose, with care, and with love. The conversation had reached a crossroads, and both men knew it. They were not going to convince each other in a single meeting. But what was clear was that they each saw the other's vision as both a potential ally and a threat to the future of humanity. As they parted ways that day, there was a sense that this was just the beginning. The disagreement was deep, but beneath it lay an unspoken respect for the other's conviction. In the coming days, weeks, and months, the world would watch to see how this unlikely meeting between two powerful men would evolve, and whether it would lead to a new path forward, or drive them even further apart. The days that followed the meeting at the Vatican were filled with contemplation for both Elon Musk and Pope Francis. Each of them returned to their respective worlds, but their thoughts remained intertwined with the powerful conversation they had shared. Elon Musk, ever the visionary, found himself troubled in ways he hadn't anticipated. The Pope's words about the human spirit, the need for community, and the importance of love and connection echoed in his mind. Could it be that in his pursuit of technological progress, he had neglected something deeper? Was there a place for empathy, for compassion, in the world he was trying to build? On the other hand, Pope Francis, though unwavering in his belief that technology needed to serve humanity, couldn't shake the impression that Elon was driven by something more than just profit and progress. Musk had a singular focus, a desire to push the boundaries of what was possible. Yet, the Pope wondered if that drive blinded him to the consequences of unchecked advancement. Was Elon's vision of the future one of hope, or was it, perhaps, one of alienation and disconnection? Their meeting had ended on an uneasy note, but it wasn't over. Both men knew that their shared concerns, the future of humanity, the role of technology in society, and the importance of ethics in an increasingly automated world, had only just begun to take shape. This would be no ordinary debate. It would be a journey of self-reflection, challenges, and ultimately, growth. As weeks passed, the world began to take notice of the extraordinary meeting between Elon Musk and Pope Francis. News outlets, social media platforms, and pundits all weighed in on the clash of ideals between the tech mogul and the spiritual leader. There were heated discussions about the future of artificial intelligence, the moral implications of space exploration, and whether the Pope's warnings about technology were warranted or antiquated. The debate escalated when Elon Musk made a bold announcement that caught the attention of the entire world. He was accelerating his plans to colonize Mars. The idea had long been part of his vision, but this announcement marked a turning point in his efforts. Musk outlined a timeline for building a self-sustaining colony on Mars within the next 2 decades, an ambitious goal that would push the limits of human innovation. His announcement was met with mixed reactions. Some hailed Musk as a visionary, praising his boldness and ambition to ensure humanity's survival beyond Earth. Others, including Pope Francis, voiced concerns that Musk was prioritizing technology and space exploration at the expense of addressing the immediate, pressing challenges on Earth: poverty, inequality, and environmental degradation. In a rare public statement, Pope Francis addressed the growing tensions by offering a call for balance. "We must not forget the needs of those who suffer here, on this fragile planet," he said. "Technology can offer solutions, but we must not lose sight of the fact that our true progress is measured by how we care for one another and how we protect our shared home." Elon Musk, never one to shy away from public confrontation, responded in an interview. "Space exploration isn't an escape. It's a necessity. Our planet's resources are finite, and humanity's survival depends on our ability to expand beyond Earth. The problems we face here, poverty, climate change, are critical, but they are not the only challenges we must confront. The future of humanity depends on our ability to think bigger, to take risks, and to push the boundaries of what's possible." The back and forth between Musk and the Vatican was intense, drawing more and more attention from the media. But beneath the surface of their public arguments, a more personal conflict was brewing, one that neither of them fully understood yet. It was in this moment of rising tension that an unexpected event occurred. A natural disaster struck the region surrounding Rome. An earthquake had rattled the area, leaving a path of destruction and widespread suffering. Thousands of people were displaced, and communities were torn apart. In the wake of the disaster, Pope Francis was faced with the task of organizing relief efforts and comforting those who had lost everything. Elon Musk, who had been deeply affected by the news, did something he had never done before. Instead of focusing on his companies or the latest technological developments, he set aside his work and made a personal decision. He would travel to Rome to offer his help, both in terms of resources and technology. "I can't just stand by and watch," Elon said to his team. "I've built technologies that could help with the rebuilding efforts. We need to get there, and we need to make sure people have access to clean energy, medical supplies, and sustainable housing." For Musk, this was more than just a philanthropic gesture. It was a chance to prove to himself that technology could be a force for good, that it could be used to heal and rebuild, not just to advance human progress in the abstract. He gathered a team of engineers, scientists, and experts, bringing with him solar-powered systems, mobile healthcare units, and advanced building technologies, all designed to aid in disaster relief. Meanwhile, Pope Francis, who had always believed in the power of human connection and service, was tirelessly working to provide comfort and aid to those affected by the earthquake. His efforts to coordinate relief, offer prayers, and personally comfort those suffering was a testament to his lifelong commitment to humanity. When the two men finally met again, it was not in a grand meeting hall or a boardroom, but amidst the rubble of a community ravaged by disaster. The earthquake had caused immense suffering, but it also provided an opportunity for both Musk and the Pope to see firsthand the intersection of their worlds, technology and humanity, progress and compassion. As they stood together, surveying the damage, Elon Musk turned to Pope Francis, his expression serious. "This is where technology can make a difference, right here. We can help rebuild, provide power, offer medical aid, all of it with the right tools. Pope Francis nodded, but his response was gentle. Technology can help, Elon. But we must never forget that it is not just the tools that matter. It is the people. It is the relationships we build, the love and care we show. In times of disaster, we are reminded that technology is just one part of the solution. The human heart, the willingness to serve, to love one another, that is the real power. Elon paused, his mind racing. He had always believed that technology would solve the world's problems, but standing there in the middle of a disaster zone, surrounded by people whose lives had been torn apart, he began to see the truth in the Pope's words. Technology alone couldn't heal the emotional scars, couldn't rebuild communities or restore hope. It was a pivotal moment, a realization that technology and humanity must go hand in hand, that progress without compassion was hollow. Elon and Pope Francis stood side by side, united in their shared desire to help, but with a newfound understanding that their journey together, though fraught with disagreement, was about more than just ideas. It was about people. The aftermath of the earthquake that devastated the outskirts of Rome had left both Elon Musk and Pope Francis in a place neither of them had anticipated. Elon, ever the problem solver, had poured all his resources into providing technology-driven solutions for the rebuilding effort. Solar-powered systems to provide energy, advanced water filtration units to ensure clean water, and mobile medical units for immediate care. His companies had responded quickly, deploying staff and equipment at a speed that was almost unheard of in traditional disaster relief scenarios. Pope Francis, in contrast, focused on the spiritual, emotional, and human aspects of the crisis. His team coordinated with local officials and humanitarian groups to provide food, shelter, and emotional support. He personally visited families who had lost loved ones, holding their hands and offering prayers. His presence was a balm to those who were suffering, reminding them that they were not alone in their grief. However, as the days passed, the tension between them began to surface. While the technology Musk brought was undoubtedly making a difference on the ground, the Pope's emphasis on human connection and faith seemed to draw attention away from what Musk saw as the true solution: advancing technology. The media covered the efforts of both men extensively, painting them as two sides of the same coin. The tech mogul using innovation to solve problems, and the Pope using compassion to heal wounds. Yet, deep down, both men began to question their own beliefs. One evening, after a long day of relief efforts, Musk and Pope Francis sat down together in a quiet corner of the temporary shelter. The chaos of the past few days had left both men exhausted, their typical drive and ambition tempered by the emotional toll of the disaster. "I've been thinking about what you said the other day," Elon began, his voice quieter than usual. "About people. About relationships. You were right. I came here thinking technology could solve everything. But I see now that it's not just about providing the tools. It's about the people who use them. The people we're helping. They need more than just solar panels and clean water." Pope Francis looked at him with a gentle but firm gaze. "I'm glad you see that, Elon. Technology can certainly help in many ways, but it is not a substitute for the human heart. When people suffer, what they need most is the knowledge that they are loved, that they are seen, that their pain matters." Elon sighed, feeling the weight of the conversation pressing down on him. "I've been so focused on changing the world, on reaching Mars, on revolutionizing transportation, that I lost sight of the here and now. It's like I'm always chasing the next big thing. I wanted to save the world, but I didn't even stop to ask if I was truly helping." There was a long silence between them. Elon's words hung in the air, and Pope Francis, for the first time since their meeting, saw the depth of Musk's struggle. Elon had always been driven by a sense of urgency, a vision of a future that was bold, bright, and technologically advanced. But the earthquake, the suffering, the simple human needs, all of it had chipped away at the armor of ambition that Musk had built around himself. "Sometimes," Pope Francis said slowly, "we are so consumed by what we want to create that we forget to look at what we already have. The love we give, the relationships we build, they are the foundation of everything. Technology is powerful, yes, but it is a tool, not the end goal. The true progress of humanity lies in how we use our resources, how we treat each other." Elon looked down, his fingers tapping nervously on the edge of the table. He had always believed in the future, but now he was beginning to wonder if that future could be as empty as a cold, lifeless Mars if it wasn't rooted in something deeper. Maybe we're both right, Elon said, almost to himself. Technology can take us to the stars, but people, human beings, are what give meaning to everything. Maybe the real question is, how do we make sure that as we reach for the stars, we don't forget the people we're leaving behind? Pope Francis smiled softly, his voice full of compassion. That is a question only you can answer, Elon. But I have faith that you will find the balance. True progress is not just in what we create, but in what we share, in the love we offer, and in the dignity we uphold in one another. For the first time in this entire journey, Elon Musk felt the weight of his own humanity pressing down on him. Not as a tech mogul, not as a visionary, but simply as a man. The truth was difficult to accept, but he felt it, deep down, in his core. The future he was working toward, one that was shaped by machines and artificial intelligence, needed to be tempered by the very values that Pope Francis had always stood for: compassion, community, and respect for the human soul. The next day, the two men, Musk and the Pope, joined forces for the first time in their history. They were no longer two opposing forces, but allies in a common mission to rebuild not just homes, but lives. Elon made a public statement acknowledging the importance of combining technology with compassion, echoing Pope Francis's call for a more balanced approach to progress. His companies, in partnership with the Vatican and humanitarian organizations, launched a new initiative to help rebuild the community, one that prioritized both technological solutions and human care. The collaboration between the two was a turning point. It was clear that their relationship had shifted from a place of ideological confrontation to one of mutual respect. They both understood that they needed each other. Pope Francis needed Elon's technological ingenuity to provide sustainable solutions for the world's most pressing issues. And Elon needed the Pope's reminder that technology was only meaningful when it served humanity, not the other way around. The media, which had once framed their meeting as a clash of ideals, now began to shift its narrative. The world watched as two seemingly polar opposites worked together, united in their shared desire to build a better future for humanity. It was a powerful reminder that even in times of intense disagreement, there could be room for collaboration and growth. As they stood together, watching as the first solar-powered homes were rebuilt and families were reunited, Elon felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. The path forward was still uncertain, but for the first time, he believed that the future could be both technologically advanced and deeply human. He turned to Pope Francis, who was standing beside him, and for the first time in their relationship, he saw not just a man of faith, but a fellow visionary. A man who was, in his own way, pushing the boundaries of what it meant to be human. "I guess we both have a role to play in this future," Elon said, his voice filled with conviction. The Pope nodded. "Indeed. Together, we can build a future that honors both the mind and the heart." The aftermath of the earthquake had not only reshaped the landscape of the affected regions in Italy, but also the trajectory of the journey both Elon Musk and Pope Francis were on. The world had witnessed a moment of transformation, a rare confluence of two of the most powerful forces of the modern world: technology and faith. What had begun as a tense meeting, a battle of ideologies, had now evolved into something deeper: an understanding that both progress and compassion were necessary for the survival and flourishing of humanity. The days following their collaboration were filled with activity. Elon's companies continued to provide the technological support necessary for the rebuilding efforts: advanced solar systems, energy-efficient housing, and water filtration devices. Pope Francis, meanwhile, was the heart of the recovery process, offering spiritual guidance and working tirelessly to ensure that those affected by the earthquake felt loved, supported, and heard. Their roles, though different in nature, complemented each other in ways that neither of them had anticipated. But it wasn't just the affected communities that were experiencing change. As news of their partnership spread, it became clear that the world was paying attention. Media outlets hailed the unprecedented collaboration between a tech mogul and a religious leader. There was something about the contrast between them: Elon's cool, calculated drive and the Pope's warm, compassionate heart, that resonated deeply with people. For the first time in years, the debate about the role of technology in society began to take on a more nuanced tone. The conversation was no longer about whether technology would save humanity, but how it could be used in harmony with human values to create a better future for all. Elon had always believed that the key to solving the world's problems lay in technology. But standing alongside Pope Francis, working hand in hand with him in the rubble of disaster, he had learned something profound. He had learned that no matter how advanced technology became, it could never replace the simple power of human connection, love, and compassion. As the weeks turned into months, Elon began to see the shift in his own approach. He started to consider the ethical implications of his work with a new sense of responsibility. There were still ambitious plans, projects to make humanity a multiplanetary species, to revolutionize industries with electric cars and artificial intelligence. But now, there was a deeper sense of awareness in his thinking. He wanted to create a future where technology served the greater good, where the needs of people came before profit, where compassion wasn't just an afterthought, but a central part of the equation. The world watched as Elon and Pope Francis began to speak more publicly about their shared vision. They started advocating for a future where the advances of technology were balanced with the moral and spiritual well-being of humanity. It wasn't about sacrificing one for the other. It was about creating a world where both could coexist in a way that was meaningful and sustainable. In a powerful joint address to the United Nations, Elon and Pope Francis stood together on stage, their differences still apparent but no longer dividing them. The Pope spoke first, his voice resonating with compassion and conviction. We live in a world where technology is advancing at a rapid pace. We are faced with challenges that no generation before us has ever known. But we must remember that technology, while powerful, is a tool, one that must be wielded with care, with love, and with a sense of responsibility to one another. The problems we face today, poverty, inequality, climate change, are not simply technological challenges. They are human challenges, and they require us to come together, to lift each other up, to show kindness and compassion. Elon followed, his words more measured than usual, but filled with the same passion that had driven him throughout his career. Technology has the potential to change the world in ways we can't even imagine. It can solve problems, create new opportunities, and improve lives. But it cannot replace the human element. What we create with our hands, our minds, and our hearts must be rooted in something deeper than just progress for the sake of progress. We must remember that true innovation comes when we prioritize people, when we work together to ensure that technology is used to serve the common good. The world listened. It was a rare moment of unity, two men from vastly different worlds, speaking with a common voice about the future of humanity. Their message was clear. Technology could be a force for good, but only if it was guided by empathy, responsibility, and love. In the quiet of the evening, after the UN address, Elon and Pope Francis walked together through the lush gardens surrounding the Vatican. The air was crisp, the silence broken only by the soft sounds of their footsteps on the stone pathway. "I never imagined I'd be standing here with you, speaking to the world about these issues," Elon said, his tone filled with reflection. Pope Francis smiled gently, his eyes thoughtful. "I didn't expect it either. But sometimes, the world needs us to come together, to find common ground. And when we do, we can accomplish great things." Elon nodded slowly. "I used to think that pushing the boundaries of technology was enough, that it was all about reaching new frontiers, finding the next big thing. But now I see that the future we create has to be about more than just technology. It has to be about the people we serve. I guess, in a way, we're both pushing the boundaries, just in different ways." Pope Francis looked at him, a quiet understanding in his eyes. "Perhaps we are. But in the end, it's not about how far we go. It's about the hearts we touch along the way." Elon thought about that for a moment. The question that had plagued him for so long, the question of how technology and humanity could coexist, seemed to have found its answer. It wasn't just about solving problems with machines. It was about using technology to enhance what was already good in the world. The kindness, the love, the capacity for connection. He didn't need to leave behind his vision for the future, but he now understood that it needed to be rooted in something more human, more compassionate. The partnership between Elon Musk and Pope Francis continued to grow, each man learning from the other as they navigated the complexities of the modern world. Together, they spearheaded initiatives to address climate change, poverty, and inequality, using technology to provide solutions, but always with a focus on the people they were helping. Their work became a symbol of what could happen when two worlds, technology and faith, came together in pursuit of a common good. In time, the global conversation shifted. The debate about technology's role in society was no longer about whether it was good or bad. It was about how it could be used to create a more just, compassionate world. Elon Musk, the once unyielding technologist, had learned to temper his ambition with empathy. Pope Francis, the spiritual leader who had always championed the human heart, had seen the power of innovation when used with purpose. And in the end, the world was better for it. As the months passed since the landmark United Nations address, the world began to witness the tangible results of the unlikely partnership between Elon Musk and Pope Francis. Their collaboration was no longer just a talking point for the media, but had become a transformative force that was starting to ripple through global initiatives, corporate strategies, and even government policies. The principles of empathy, human-centered technology, and the value of deep connections began to weave their way into the fabric of conversations everywhere, from Silicon Valley boardrooms to village town halls in remote corners of the world. It was clear that this was no fleeting moment. It was the beginning of a new era. The road they had walked, filled with ideological clashes, moments of personal reflection, and shared lessons, had now turned into something far bigger than both of them. What had started as a debate about the role of technology in humanity's future was now inspiring a worldwide shift in how people saw both technology and each other. Elon Musk, who had once been the personification of tech-driven ambition, found himself speaking at conferences not just about Mars or electric cars, but about the ethics of technological progress. He frequently cited his ongoing collaboration with Pope Francis, explaining how their shared vision for a future rooted in compassion and human dignity had reshaped his own approach to innovation. The future isn't just about being the first to build the next big thing, Elon began to tell audiences across the globe. It's about ensuring that our inventions, no matter how groundbreaking, are deeply rooted in the care and well-being of humanity. At Tesla and SpaceX, Musk began implementing new internal policies that prioritized not just technical excellence, but social responsibility. He pushed for more sustainable energy solutions, not as a marketing tool, but because he genuinely believed that technology could and should be used to protect the environment. In the boardrooms, Elon started speaking not only about numbers and profitability, but about how his companies could be a force for good in addressing the world's greatest challenges, from climate change to inequality. Pope Francis, for his part, was encouraged by the growing support from the business and tech communities. He continued to advocate for a future where technology served the most vulnerable in society, always emphasizing that technological advancement should never outpace the ethical considerations that defined a society's true progress. His voice became a clarion call for all those in power, be it in politics, business, or social movements, to ensure that technology was never used to exploit or diminish human dignity. The Vatican itself began to adopt new initiatives aimed at blending technology with compassion. Pope Francis called for the establishment of a global Tech for Humanity summit, an event where leaders from the worlds of business, technology, government, and religion could come together to discuss the future of the digital age. The summit's goal was not just to solve technical problems, but to explore how to harness technology for social good. As the summit gained momentum, Elon Musk and Pope Francis became symbols of a new paradigm, one where visionaries from different sectors could work together to craft solutions that not only served the bottom line but also created positive, lasting change for the common good. The first Tech for Humanity Summit, held in Rome, marked a watershed moment. The event attracted thousands of attendees, from tech CEOs and scientists to religious leaders and policymakers. As Pope Francis took the stage, he was met with a standing ovation. His message was clear: we are at a crossroads. The choices we make today about the future of technology will determine the kind of world our children inherit tomorrow. Will it be a world where innovation brings people together, or one where it divides us further? Will it be a world where technology strengthens the human spirit, or one where it alienates us from one another? Elon Musk followed, and his words were equally powerful, though distinctly focused on the potential of technology. Humanity has the ability to solve its most pressing problems if we choose to harness the power of innovation in the right way. We have the ability to create a future where everyone has access to clean energy, sustainable transportation, and the tools to thrive, no matter where they are in the world. But we must never forget that it's not just about technology. It's about how we use it to create a better life for everyone. The summit was a resounding success, sparking new initiatives and collaborations across industries. Tech companies, from giants like Google and Microsoft to smaller, grassroots innovators, signed agreements to share resources, collaborate on sustainability efforts, and invest in solutions that prioritized human welfare. Pope Francis' message resonated deeply with global leaders, and many promised to integrate ethical considerations into their technological development agendas. It wasn't just the world's largest corporations that took notice. Small businesses and local communities were inspired by the summit's discussions. It led to new alliances in sectors like healthcare, agriculture, and education, where cutting-edge technology could be used to solve problems like hunger, lack of access to education, and inadequate healthcare systems. For Elon Musk, the summit represented the culmination of his personal transformation. He now saw the future not as a race to the top for the sake of personal achievement, but as a shared journey to uplift humanity. He still dreamed of the stars, of making life multiplanetary, but his vision of progress had expanded. It was no longer about technology as a goal unto itself, but as a tool that could improve lives and preserve the human spirit. During the summit, Musk took a quiet moment to reflect on the journey that had brought him here. He recalled his first meeting with Pope Francis, the tension, the ideological battles, the frustrations. It seemed so distant now. He had learned that no matter how fast technology advanced, it had to be paired with something much more lasting, a sense of purpose. He had been on a quest for progress, but now he realized that true progress wasn't about the destination. It was about the path we take together as human beings. In a private moment with Pope Francis after the summit, Elon confessed, "I've been chasing after solutions for so long, I almost lost sight of what really matters. It's not about what we create, but who we create it for." The Pope smiled warmly. "I believe you're beginning to understand, Elon. Technology must serve humanity, not the other way around." As the summit concluded and the world watched, a sense of hope filled the air. The ripple effects of the conversation between Elon Musk and Pope Francis had spread far beyond their initial meeting. They had managed to shift the global conversation, bringing together people from all walks of life to consider how technology could be used to heal the world rather than harm it. Corporate leaders had begun to implement more sustainable practices. Governments worldwide started looking at how to regulate emerging technologies with a focus on ethical considerations. Religious communities, too, found new ways to integrate their teachings with the realities of the digital age, ensuring that technology was used not to divide, but to unify. The legacy of the meeting between Elon Musk and Pope Francis wasn't just about the individual policies or projects that were born from it. It was about the shift in thinking, an awakening to the fact that humanity's future is not simply about creating the most advanced technology, but about making sure that technology is used in ways that foster connection, compassion, and collective growth. And as the world moved forward into the future, there was a quiet sense of confidence among those who had been part of this transformation. Perhaps, just perhaps, the future wasn't as uncertain or divided as it had seemed. With technology and human values intertwined, there was hope that the next great steps humanity would take would be guided not by ambition alone, but by empathy, care, and a shared desire to make the world a better place. The conversation between Elon Musk and Pope Francis had laid the foundation for a profound shift in the world. The road ahead was now clearer. Yet, as the ripple effects of their collaboration continued to spread across the globe, Elon's most ambitious dream, the colonization of Mars, still beckoned. It had always been a dream that consumed him, the drive to make humanity a multiplanetary species. But after the experiences of the past year, he found himself questioning whether his original vision for Mars was in need of a redefinition. At the heart of his dream was the survival of the human race. Mars offered a potential escape from the problems on Earth, climate change, overpopulation, and limited resources. But now, with his renewed sense of responsibility, Elon began to wonder, could the lessons of compassion, sustainability, and empathy he had learned from his collaboration with Pope Francis find their way into the great human endeavor of reaching Mars? Was it possible to design a future on the red planet that reflected the best aspects of humanity, not just its technological prowess? One evening, after a long day of meetings in the Tesla and SpaceX boardrooms, Elon sat alone in his office, reflecting on his conversation with the Pope from weeks before. The vision of the future they had shared kept running through his mind, the balance between progress and compassion, technology and humanity. He had always viewed the challenges of space exploration through the lens of engineering and science, but now he was starting to see it through the lens of ethics and philosophy. It was then that his phone rang. The caller ID displayed an unfamiliar number, one with a Vatican area code. "Hello, Elon," a familiar, calm voice said. It was Pope Francis. "Yes, Your Holiness," Elon replied, his voice a mix of curiosity and respect. "Is everything all right?" "I've been thinking a lot about our conversations," Pope Francis said, "about the future of technology, about space. And I have an idea that might interest you." Elon's interest peaked. "What is it?" "We've spoken before about how we can use technology for the betterment of all humanity," Pope Francis continued. "I believe it's time to think about how we might approach colonization of Mars with a different perspective. I would like to come visit you, Elon. Together, I think we could start something new, something that integrates not only the science and innovation of space exploration, but also the values that make us human." Elon was taken aback. He had never imagined that the Pope, a spiritual leader, would be interested in venturing into the world of interplanetary colonization. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized how aligned their goals had become. Perhaps Mars wasn't just about escaping Earth's problems. It could also be an opportunity to build something new, from the ground up, guided by the principles of compassion, unity, and social responsibility. "I'm honored, Pope Francis. I think it's time we have this conversation," Elon said, his mind racing with possibilities. Weeks later, Pope Francis arrived in Hawthorne, California, where SpaceX's headquarters were located. Elon welcomed him with open arms, and together they spent the next several days discussing what a Mars mission could look like, not just from a technological standpoint, but from a human one. The discussions ranged from the practicalities of building sustainable habitats on Mars to the moral responsibilities humanity would have when setting foot on a new planet. The Pope had no illusions about the challenges ahead. "Space exploration is essential," he said during their first meeting, "but we must never forget that our actions on Mars will reflect who we are as people. If we colonize Mars, we must do so with humility, respect for life, and the commitment to never repeating the mistakes we've made on Earth. The new world we create should be a reflection of our better selves." Elon nodded, absorbing the weight of the Pope's words. "I've always seen Mars as humanity's backup plan," he admitted. "But now, I see that it's also an opportunity to create a society that's not just about survival, but about thriving. We need to bring more than just technology to Mars. We need to bring our values, our compassion, and our commitment to sustainability. If we don't, then we risk making the same mistakes all over again." Pope Francis smiled, a rare twinkle in his eye. "Exactly. It's not just about getting to Mars. It's about how we get there. We can't afford to leave behind our humanity, no matter how far we go. Our journey to Mars should be a beacon for how to move forward as a global society, one that unites people, not divides them." Their vision for Mars began to take shape in that moment, a vision that was unlike any other mission of exploration or colonization. They agreed that any Mars settlement must be built on the principles of sustainability, equality, and respect for life. The blueprint for the new Martian colony would incorporate advanced technologies, yes, but they would always be used in the service of humanity's higher ideals. Elon's engineers began drawing up plans for Martian habitats that would utilize the best renewable energy sources, incorporating solar, wind, and other sustainable energy technologies. The habitat design would include agricultural systems that allowed for the growing of food locally, minimizing the need for constant resupply from Earth. Water purification systems would be built into every home, and efforts would be made to ensure that the resources on Mars were used efficiently and responsibly. But beyond the technical aspects, Elon and Pope Francis began to speak about something even more profound: the ethical framework for a Martian society. They discussed governance, justice, and the importance of ensuring that the first settlers on Mars would have a shared vision, one where every individual was valued, and the well-being of the entire colony was prioritized over individual success. The idea of a Martian charter began to take shape, a set of ethical guidelines for how people would live and work on Mars. The charter would outline the fundamental rights of settlers, the responsibility to future generations, and the commitment to create a society that mirrored the values of compassion and human dignity. It would ensure that Mars was not just a place for humans to escape from Earth's problems, but a place where those problems were addressed from the start, by building a society that was kinder, more just, and more sustainable than what had been left behind. Months later, Elon and Pope Francis were standing together in the control center at SpaceX, watching as the first mission to Mars was about to launch. The spacecraft, named Hope, was loaded with the first settlers, each one carefully selected not only for their technical skills, but also for their commitment to the principles of sustainability and human rights. The mission was not just a scientific venture. It was a moral one, driven by the shared vision that the new world they were about to create would be one defined by compassion, unity, and respect. As the countdown began, Elon turned to Pope Francis, who was standing beside him, offering a quiet prayer. "You know, I never thought this would be how it would go," Elon said, his voice tinged with emotion. Pope Francis smiled gently. "You've always dreamed of the stars, Elon, but now you're dreaming of something more." With a deep breath, Elon nodded. "I think we're dreaming of a better future for everyone, not just for us." The rocket lifted off, leaving Earth behind, carrying with it the hopes of a new generation, one that had learned from the past and was determined to build a better future on the Red Planet. While the Mars mission soared ahead with unprecedented momentum, Elon Musk and Pope Francis continued to redefine the trajectory of humanity's future. The launch of Hope to Mars was not just a technical triumph. It was a profound shift in the way the world viewed progress, human potential, and collective responsibility. But as the settlers on Mars embarked on their historic journey, a new challenge began to emerge: the urgent need to address the very Earth they were leaving behind. The same global issues that had driven Elon's pursuit of Mars, climate change, resource scarcity, and social inequality, were still raging on Earth. And now, with the hopeful vision of a thriving Martian colony in motion, Elon and Pope Francis realized they had a unique opportunity to inspire the world to change before it was too late. As the first Mars expedition made its way to the Red Planet, their shared vision started to take on even greater meaning. The question was no longer just about creating a new world on Mars. It was about ensuring the Earth itself could survive long enough to support humanity's continued existence. And this was a mission that required more than just technology. It required a global awakening. In the wake of the Mars launch, Pope Francis began calling for a renewed commitment to Earth. He knew the eyes of the world were on Mars, but he also knew that the actions taken on Earth, right now, would determine humanity's future. It was time to bring the message of sustainability, compassion, and social responsibility to a global stage. Pope Francis reached out to global leaders, activists, and scientists, urging them to join in a united effort to protect the planet. What began as a small initiative quickly gained traction as a global movement. Known as the Earth Initiative, it called for immediate action on climate change, poverty, inequality, and resource depletion. It was a call for humanity to work together, not just to reach for the stars, but to ensure the Earth itself was worth reaching for. Elon Musk, too, became an advocate for the Earth Initiative. While he had long been a pioneer of sustainable energy through Tesla and SpaceX, he now saw his efforts in a broader context. It was no longer just about reducing emissions or making electric vehicles mainstream. It was about rebuilding ecosystems, restoring forests, and ensuring clean water and food for all. He began using his platforms to encourage tech companies, governments, and individuals to prioritize the environment and the collective good over profits and personal gain. Elon's thoughts were shaped by a conversation he had with Pope Francis during a private meeting months earlier. The Pope had reminded him that, while technological innovation was critical, it was the human spirit that ultimately mattered. "We must reconnect with the Earth as we reconnect with each other," Pope Francis had said, his voice filled with quiet passion. "Technology can advance, but it must not distance us from our responsibility to the world that gave us life." The Earth Initiative soon began to gain unprecedented momentum. The call for a unified global effort to fight climate change was answered by governments, NGOs, and corporations around the world. It wasn't just a political or economic issue anymore. It was a moral one. People everywhere began realizing that saving the Earth wasn't just about survival. It was about building a future that was equitable, compassionate, and sustainable. As Pope Francis continued to advocate for the Earth Initiative, Elon Musk started using his influence in ways that surprised even his closest allies. Instead of focusing solely on the profitability of his companies, he began directing much of his energy toward pushing the boundaries of innovation with a social and environmental agenda in mind. At Tesla, Elon made bold moves to further reduce the company's carbon footprint. He launched a new initiative to retrofit buildings around the world with Tesla's solar panels and battery systems, aiming to make energy consumption both sustainable and accessible to every home, regardless of its location or economic status. In his vision, clean energy wasn't a luxury, it was a necessity, one that should be available to everyone. At the same time, SpaceX's efforts to create reusable rockets were hailed not just as a technological achievement, but as a step toward reducing waste and ensuring that future space exploration could be done with minimal environmental impact. But Elon's influence extended beyond his own companies. He reached out to other business leaders, urging them to consider the long-term impact of their work on the planet. He made bold statements in the media, calling on major corporations to abandon short-term gains for the sake of a healthier, more sustainable planet. Profit will come when we create a world worth living in, Elon said in one of his most widely quoted speeches. The future belongs to those who see beyond their immediate bottom line and understand the importance of a long-term vision. We have to act now, for ourselves, for future generations, and for the planet. For the first time in his career, Elon was not simply focused on innovation for innovation's sake. His goals were now deeply intertwined with the global movement to protect the Earth. And his success stories, like Tesla's explosion in popularity and SpaceX's successful missions, were seen not just as technological feats, but as examples of how businesses could lead the charge in creating a better future. The partnership between Elon Musk and Pope Francis had become a beacon of hope. They had both recognized that humanity's future depended not on technological advances alone, but on a broader vision, one that combined innovation with compassion. Their message was clear. The future of humanity, both on Earth and in space, could only be secured if people united behind shared values of sustainability, equality, and respect for all life. To solidify this movement, Pope Francis called for the creation of a global declaration of human unity. This declaration was to be signed by leaders from every country, from all walks of life, who agreed that the planet must come first. The declaration emphasized collective responsibility, acknowledging that no single nation or individual could solve the crises facing the Earth alone. The first signatories included not only heads of state, but also tech moguls, philanthropists, and cultural leaders. Elon Musk signed with a sense of purpose, knowing that this was the moment that the Earth Initiative would become more than just an idea. It was a global mandate, a collective promise to future generations. As Elon watched the Earth Initiative grow, he often found himself reflecting on the journey he had taken. The audacious dreams that had once been driven by personal ambition were now fueled by something far more powerful, the hope of a united future for all. He thought back to his first conversation with Pope Francis, the debate that had sparked their unlikely partnership. At the time, he had been a man focused on technology, on reaching Mars, on solving the challenges of the human race with cutting-edge innovation. But now, he realized, the real challenge lay in ensuring that Earth itself remained a place worth preserving. One evening, as he sat in his office, Elon received a message from Pope Francis. It was a simple note. Remember, Elon, it's not just about building the future. It's about building it with love and purpose. Elon smiled, taking in the weight of the Pope's words. It was true. The future, whether on Earth or Mars, would only be meaningful if it was built on a foundation of care and responsibility. With this new understanding, he began to see the future differently, not as a race for innovation, but as a race to build a world where all people could thrive. The Earth Initiative was no longer just an idea, it was a revolution in motion. What began with a few visionary leaders, like Elon Musk and Pope Francis, had now spread to every corner of the globe. Millions of people, activists, scientists, engineers, and ordinary citizens, had come together under the banner of sustainability, ethics, and collective responsibility. This movement was no longer just about addressing the environmental crisis. It was about redefining the very nature of progress and success. The first major step in this global revolution was the establishment of the Earth Reclamation Fund, a monumental effort backed by governments, private corporations, and philanthropists. The fund was designed to tackle the most pressing issues facing the planet: climate change, deforestation, water scarcity, and more. Unlike past environmental initiatives, the Earth Reclamation Fund didn't just focus on mitigating damage. It was about healing the planet. It was about regenerating ecosystems, restoring natural habitats, and rebuilding what had been lost. For Elon, the idea of restoration was a personal one. He had spent so much of his life pushing the boundaries of technology, whether through electric cars, renewable energy, or space exploration, that he had never fully considered the delicate balance between human progress and the health of the planet. Now, however, the importance of healing Earth had become clear. His focus shifted, not just to preserving resources but to regenerating the Earth's ecosystems, to ensuring that the next generation would inherit a planet that could support life in all its forms. The Earth Initiative's blueprint for a sustainable future was ambitious, perhaps even impossible. But, as Elon often said, if we're not aiming for the impossible, then we're not dreaming big enough. Under the guidance of scientists, environmentalists, and innovators from around the world, a plan was put into motion to restore the Earth's ecosystems to a state of health that had not been seen for centuries. The first major project was the Global Reforestation Effort, an ambitious initiative to plant billions of trees across the world. In the past, deforestation had been one of the primary drivers of climate change. But now, replanting entire forests became a symbol of the world's commitment to healing itself. With the help of innovative drone technology, developed, in part, by SpaceX engineers, the task of planting trees on a massive scale was made possible. Thousands of drones, equipped with seeds and soil-enhancing tools, were deployed to remote and degraded lands, rapidly replenishing forests in Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia. Elon's Tesla and SpaceX teams also began working on technologies to clean the oceans, removing the plastic waste that had accumulated in massive floating islands. The Ocean Cleanup Project, as it was known, was an effort that involved not only technology but a network of global volunteers and organizations committed to restoring marine ecosystems. Solar-powered, automated waste extraction systems were deployed to pull plastic from the ocean's depths and recycle it into sustainable products. As these monumental projects began taking shape, Elon realized that the key to success wasn't just technological innovation. It was collaboration, uniting governments, corporations, nonprofits, and individuals with a shared sense of purpose. What made the Earth Initiative unique was its inclusivity. It wasn't just a top-down approach. It empowered communities, making them active participants in the fight to save their own homes. As the Earth Initiative gained momentum, a critical shift began to occur in the world's economic systems. For too long, capitalism had been defined by the pursuit of endless growth and the accumulation of wealth. But with the challenges of climate change and resource depletion becoming increasingly urgent, it was clear that this model was unsustainable. Elon Musk and Pope Francis, together, began advocating for the creation of a new economic framework, the green economy. The green economy was based on the principles of sustainability, equity, and a fair distribution of resources. Instead of focusing solely on profits and consumption, this new economic model prioritized long-term value, investing in infrastructure that would provide lasting benefits to people and the planet. Governments around the world began transitioning subsidies from fossil fuel industries to renewable energy solutions. Countries that had been dependent on coal, oil, and natural gas now found themselves at the forefront of green energy innovation. At the same time, corporations and tech giants, led by companies like Tesla, began to rethink their supply chains, incorporating circular economies where resources were reused and recycled, and waste was minimized. For Elon, this was a new kind of challenge, a challenge that required him to step away from the traditional business mentality of exponential profit margins and instead focus on solutions that would benefit humanity at large. While his companies still pursued profitability, The goal was no longer just about growth for growth's sake. It was about creating value that would last for generations to come. One of the most important components of the Earth Initiative was its focus on education. Elon and Pope Francis knew that lasting change could only happen if future generations were taught not just to think differently, but to feel differently about the planet and their place in it. They worked together to create an educational framework that would prioritize environmental stewardship, empathy, and global citizenship. Schools around the world began adopting new curricula that emphasized sustainable living, ecological conservation, and social responsibility. Elon's companies, including Tesla and SpaceX, began partnering with universities to create research hubs focused on clean energy, climate science, and new technologies for sustainable development. One of the most inspiring stories came from a high school in rural India, where students had been working on their own local reforestation project. Their teacher, who had received training through one of Elon's educational initiatives, encouraged them to turn their passion for the planet into real-world action. What began as a small initiative blossomed into a nationwide effort, inspiring schools across India to join the reforestation movement. This grassroots effort was echoed by similar movements across Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, creating a global network of youth leaders dedicated to environmental activism. For Elon, this was a reminder that the future wasn't just about technology, it was about empowering people, especially the younger generation, to take responsibility for the world around them. It was a lesson in humility. While technology could drive change, it was the hearts and minds of the people that would ultimately determine the fate of the planet. One evening, as Elon Musk and Pope Francis met privately in a small room at the Vatican, they reflected on the extraordinary progress that had been made. The Earth Initiative had evolved from a dream into a movement, and its effects were beginning to transform not just the environment, but society itself. Elon looked at Pope Francis with a sense of gratitude and awe. "I've always believed in the power of technology to change the world," Elon said. "But what we're doing now, it feels different. It's not just about building things. It's about rebuilding our relationship with each other and with the Earth." Pope Francis nodded, his eyes filled with warmth. "Yes, Elon. You've taught me that technology, while powerful, must always be used with a sense of responsibility. The Earth Initiative is not just about saving the planet. It's about saving ourselves, our humanity. We are all interconnected, and what we do to the Earth, we do to each other." As they sat together, contemplating the future, they knew that their work had only just begun. The Earth Initiative was only the beginning of a much larger transformation. A transformation that would reshape society, restore the planet, and guide humanity into a new era of compassion, sustainability, and unity. As Earth's healing efforts gained momentum, the focus of human ambition shifted back to the stars. Mars, once a distant dream, was now on the horizon, and the Mars mission was no longer a distant possibility. With the Earth Initiative well underway, Elon Musk and Pope Francis turned their gaze to the next chapter of humanity's journey, the establishment of a human colony on Mars. The collaboration between the two men, which had focused on healing Earth, was now becoming a global partnership aimed at making space exploration a reality. But this journey wasn't just about exploring a new world. It was about ensuring that humanity's future in space was rooted in the same principles of sustainability, compassion, and unity that had emerged on Earth. Elon Musk's vision for Mars was no longer just about making a profit or securing humanity's future in space. It was about ensuring that the lessons learned from Earth's restoration would guide the colonization of Mars. With this shared purpose in mind, Musk and Pope Francis worked together to ensure that the mission to Mars would be one of collaboration, sustainability, and unity. The challenge ahead was daunting: to build a new world on Mars, where resources were scarce, technology was still evolving, and humanity would need to find ways to live in harmony with an alien environment. But they knew that the same values that had driven the Earth Initiative would guide them in this new chapter. The first mission to Mars, dubbed the Genesis Expedition, was set in motion. It was a mission unlike any other, one that combined the best of human ingenuity with a deep respect for the environment. The mission's objective was clear: establish a self-sustaining colony on Mars that would serve as humanity's backup plan, while still ensuring that Earth remained the cradle of life. The colony's design was inspired by the principles of Earth restoration: solar-powered systems, water recycling technologies, and vertical farming would ensure that the colony could function without depleting Mars' limited resources. Elon's companies, including SpaceX, were responsible for the technology and infrastructure that would make this possible. But Pope Francis, with his deep understanding of ethics and human dignity, was determined that this new world would also embody a sense of compassion and community. The colonists, scientists, engineers, and dreamers from every corner of the globe were chosen not just for their technical expertise, but for their ability to live in harmony with each other and with the new environment they would help create. As part of the mission's goals, the colonists were to uphold the same values of equality, sustainability, and compassion that were being implemented on Earth. The journey to Mars was long and perilous, but the colonists felt buoyed by the knowledge that they weren't just pioneers. They were part of a global movement that was changing the course of humanity. They carried with them the hopes of billions of people on Earth, as well as the legacy of the Earth Initiative. They were tasked not only with surviving on Mars, but with building a community that could thrive, one that would reflect the best of humanity. As the first settlers arrived on Mars, they encountered challenges that no one could have anticipated. The harsh Martian environment was far more dangerous than anyone had predicted, with intense dust storms, extreme temperatures, and the ever-present threat of radiation. Despite the cutting-edge technologies and careful planning, the colony was pushed to its limits. Supplies were limited, and resources, such as water and oxygen, were constantly at risk. In the early days of the colony, tensions ran high. The stress of being so far from home, combined with the isolation and physical challenges, tested the mettle of every colonist. There were disagreements about how resources should be allocated, how to prioritize certain needs, and even how to maintain morale in such a difficult environment. But as the weeks passed, something remarkable began to happen. The same spirit of unity and collaboration that had transformed Earth's environmental landscape began to take root on Mars. The colonists learned to work together, pooling their knowledge, skills, and resources to survive. They built systems to extract water from the Martian soil and developed innovative ways to grow food in the red soil. Every day brought new challenges, but also new solutions. There was no time for division or egos, only the shared mission to create a thriving human presence on Mars. As Elon Musk watched from Earth, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. The colony was facing hardships, but they were doing it together. And in that unity, there was hope, not just for Mars, but for the future of humanity. Back on Earth, Pope Francis continued to advocate for the importance of Mars colonization, not just as a backup for humanity, but as a message of hope for the entire world. He knew that humanity's ability to work together to solve the challenges of space exploration would have profound implications for solving the problems facing Earth. If humanity could come together to build a thriving colony on Mars, they could surely come together to heal the Earth. Pope Francis used his influence to call for a renewed focus on education, not just about technology, but about empathy, compassion, and human unity. He emphasized that the lessons learned on Mars, about collaboration, sustainability, and respect for the environment, had to be shared with the world. The mission to Mars was about more than just space exploration. It was about sending a message of hope and unity to every person on Earth. In speeches broadcast globally, Pope Francis spoke passionately about the importance of a future that connects us all. He reminded humanity that while Mars may be distant, the lessons of Mars were already shaping the future of Earth. "We are not just colonizing a new world," Pope Francis said. "We are learning to live in harmony with each other and with the world that sustains us here on Earth. And if we can do it on Mars, surely we can do it here." As the Mars colony continued to grow and develop, Elon Musk's vision for humanity's future began to take shape in a way he had never anticipated. What began as a singular mission to explore and colonize Mars was now a global effort, a movement that united people of all nations, cultures, and backgrounds in the pursuit of something greater than themselves. Elon's role had shifted. He was no longer just a tech mogul or a space pioneer. He had become a symbol of humanity's ability to overcome adversity, to push beyond the limits of what seemed possible, and to build a better future for all. The challenges of space exploration had brought humanity closer together, and the lessons learned on Mars were beginning to echo back to Earth. As he stood before the world's media, preparing for another milestone announcement, Elon reflected on how far humanity had come. When we started this journey, it was about solving the problems of the Earth. But now, it's about something bigger. It's about building a future where humanity is united, not just on Earth, but across the stars. The journey to Mars was only the beginning. As the settlers on Mars continued to thrive, they sent messages back to Earth, sharing their discoveries and their triumphs. They were not just pioneers. They were living proof that humanity's greatest achievements could be accomplished when people worked together for a common purpose. Elon Musk and Pope Francis, united in their vision for humanity, knew that the future had only just begun. The mission to Mars was not the end of the story. It was a new chapter, one that would see humanity reach new heights, both on Earth and beyond. Together, they had started a revolution, one that had begun on Earth but would echo throughout the universe. It was a revolution of unity, compassion, and hope. And as the first human footsteps left their mark on Mars, they knew that humanity's greatest journey was just beginning. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? As the Mars colony flourished, back on Earth, a spiritual and philosophical transformation was quietly sweeping across the globe. The Earth Initiative had sparked not only a practical revolution in terms of sustainability, but also a deeper, more profound shift in the way people viewed their relationship with nature, with technology, and with each other. The collaboration between Elon Musk and Pope Francis had ignited something within humanity, a renewed sense of purpose that transcended the material world. Their efforts to restore Earth's ecosystems were now paired with a growing consciousness about the interconnectedness of all life, on Earth and beyond. Elon's vision of a technologically advanced future was now intertwined with Pope Francis's call for greater compassion, humility, and stewardship of the planet. Together, they had not only pushed for a more sustainable way of life, but had also planted the seeds for a spiritual awakening. People from all walks of life began to embrace a new understanding of human existence, one that was less about accumulation and more about connection. This shift was beginning to manifest in unexpected ways, from grassroots movements to philosophical discourses in academic circles, all centered around the theme of unity. Unity with each other, with nature, and with the universe. In response to the growing interest in a deeper connection between technology, spirituality, and the environment, Pope Francis and Elon Musk decided to host a monumental event, a global dialogue that would bring together thought leaders, religious figures, scientists, and ordinary citizens. This event, held in the heart of Rome, was named the Universal Awakening Summit. The summit aimed to explore the convergence of faith, science, and sustainability. It was an opportunity for people from all belief systems to come together and explore the common threads that united them. For Pope Francis, this was a chance to guide humanity back to its spiritual roots, reminding people that they were not just conquerors of the earth, but stewards of it. For Elon, it was an opportunity to expand the conversation about space exploration into something much deeper, linking the technological future to the moral imperatives of human existence. The summit was filled with inspiring talks from a diverse range of speakers. Leading scientists spoke about the role of artificial intelligence in ensuring the survival of the planet, while spiritual leaders reflected on the importance of humility and reverence in a world increasingly dominated by technology. It was a dialogue that bridged seemingly disparate worlds, yet one that found a harmonious middle ground. One of the most poignant moments came when a Buddhist monk, speaking through an interpreter, shared his thoughts on the Buddhist concept of interdependence. He explained how every living being is interconnected and how humanity's technological advancements must not be viewed in isolation, but in relation to the natural world. His words echoed in the hearts of all who listened, and the room was filled with a shared sense of understanding. During the summit, Elon Musk had a moment of personal reflection. Over the years, he had been driven by the relentless pursuit of technological innovation, believing that progress through technology was the ultimate solution to humanity's problems. But in the midst of the summit, he began to realize that the true power of technology was not in its ability to control the world, but in its ability to connect people, to unite them in common purpose. It was an epiphany that startled him. He had always believed that the key to saving humanity lay in technological advancements, electric cars, space travel, AI. But now, he saw the bigger picture. The The technologies of the future were not just tools to master nature. They were bridges to a new kind of human unity. As he sat at the front of the conference hall, listening to the philosophers and spiritual leaders speak, Elon's mind wandered to his work at Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink. He thought about the potential of AI not just for advancing technology, but for fostering empathy and understanding. He thought about how the machines he had created, once tools of efficiency and progress, could be repurposed to serve a higher goal, connecting humanity in ways that transcended borders, cultures, and even space itself. Elon stood up, his mind racing with ideas. When he was invited to speak, he stepped to the podium and spoke from the heart. I've always believed that technology can solve our biggest challenges. But today, I see that technology is only one part of the solution. The true breakthrough comes when we realize that the most important thing we can build, whether on Earth or Mars, is a shared future, one where we are not just passengers in the universe, but participants in a living, breathing connection with all that surrounds us. As Elon's words echoed through the hall, Pope Francis stood and nodded, a gentle smile on his face. He had always believed that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its ability to dominate, but in its capacity to love and care for all of creation. In his heart, he knew that the Earth Initiative and the Mars mission were only the beginning of a much larger story. This was a story that transcended technology, politics, and even the boundaries of our own planet. The Pope addressed the audience with his characteristic warmth, emphasizing that the Earth Initiative had always been about more than just saving the environment. It was about healing the human spirit. It was about restoring the sense of sacredness in our relationship with the Earth and with each other. True progress, he said, is not measured by how much we control, but by how much we give, by how much we love. If we can learn to love the Earth, then we can learn to love each other. And if we can learn to love each other, we will be able to reach the stars. The Pope's words resonated deeply with the audience. They were words that transcended belief systems and cultural barriers. They were universal in their call to humanity to rethink its approach to life, not as a conquest of resources, but as a humble journey toward a shared future. The summit's final day saw the signing of an extraordinary declaration. Leaders from around the world, representing every major religion and philosophy, came together to commit to a new era of global cooperation. The declaration called for a worldwide commitment to sustainability, technological progress that serves the common good, and an emphasis on compassion and human dignity. The declaration also acknowledged that the journey of healing Earth, reaching Mars, and creating a sustainable future was not a goal that could be achieved by any one individual or nation. It was a collective effort, a journey that would require the commitment of all humanity, working in concert to ensure that the future was not just about survival, but about flourishing. As the event drew to a close, Pope Francis and Elon Musk stood together, looking out at the crowd. They had come from vastly different worlds, one a spiritual leader, the other a technological innovator, but they had found common ground in their shared vision of a future where humanity worked together to heal the Earth, reach for the stars, and build a new world of compassion and unity. In the months that followed the summit, Elon Musk doubled down on his commitment to a future where technology and compassion went hand in hand. He expanded SpaceX's plans, not just for Mars, but for interplanetary colonization. But his vision had changed. Mars was no longer just about survival. It was about creating a sanctuary for humanity, a new home where people could live in harmony with the environment, with each other, and with the universe. As SpaceX prepared for the next phase of its Mars mission, Elon Musk made a promise to the world. We will reach Mars, but we will also reach inside ourselves. The future is not just about the stars. It's about the light we carry within us. The world had changed. From the seed of the Earth Initiative and the ambitious Mars mission, a ripple effect had spread across the globe. What began as a technological and environmental endeavor had blossomed into something far more profound. It was not just about saving Earth or reaching Mars anymore. It was about the survival of humanity as a whole, about transcending the old divides of culture, politics, and geography, and embracing a unified future. With the Mars colony now well established and Earth continuing its recovery, the focus shifted to ensuring that this new era of cooperation would be lasting. There were still countless challenges to overcome, both on Earth and beyond. However, The true measure of success was no longer in the tangible outcomes, the construction of cities on Mars, or the environmental healing of Earth. The true measure lay in the connections forged, in the new awareness that humanity was one. In this chapter, the world's attention turned to a groundbreaking project, the establishment of the first interstellar network, a project that would link human consciousness across time and space, allowing humans to communicate, learn, and grow from one another, no matter where they were in the universe. This ambitious undertaking, inspired by both the technological innovations spearheaded by Musk and the spiritual vision of Pope Francis, would transcend the limits of physical communication. It would be an effort to forge not only a shared future but a connected humanity. Elon Musk had always been fascinated by the potential of technology to connect people. From the early days of PayPal to the revolutionary progress of Tesla and SpaceX, his work had been driven by the desire to push humanity forward through innovation. But now, his vision was far broader. The interstellar network would be a system of advanced communication, not just for Earth but for the colonies on Mars and any future off-world settlements. It would use neural technology and advanced AI to establish a global communication platform that could transcend the barriers of distance, language, and even time. With this system, every human being could experience and share knowledge, experiences, and ideas in real time, regardless of where they were located. Elon's motivation was simple. He believed that the key to humanity's survival was in its ability to unite, to share knowledge and wisdom across space and time. If humanity could learn from one another, if they could tap into the collective knowledge of their species, they could overcome any challenge. Mars would be the first step, but the interstellar network was the real leap forward. While Elon worked tirelessly on the technical aspects of the project, Pope Francis provided the spiritual guidance that would give the interstellar network its moral foundation. The Pope's words had always focused on humanity's shared responsibility to care for the Earth and each other. Now, as the interstellar network began to take shape, he emphasized that this unprecedented communication technology must be grounded in compassion, empathy, and respect for all living beings. The technology we build, Pope Francis said in a speech, must serve to unite us, not divide us. It must promote understanding, not exploitation. The true power of the interstellar network lies not in its ability to transmit data, but in its ability to transmit humanity, the good, the wisdom, and the love that have always been within us. The Pope was adamant that the network should not just be a tool for global communication, but a vehicle for spiritual and philosophical growth. It would allow people to share not just scientific breakthroughs, but the deeper aspects of human experience, art, culture, compassion, and faith. Through this interconnected platform, Pope Francis envisioned a global community where every voice was heard and every soul was valued. The first phase of the interstellar network was to be focused on Earth, establishing a communication system that would connect people across the planet, creating a true global village. The goal was to bridge the gaps that had long divided humanity: wealth, education, culture, and geography. Through this technology, people from all walks of life could interact with one another, sharing not only information but also experiences, insights, and dreams. To make the network accessible to all, Elon Musk and his companies worked with global leaders to ensure that the system was available to everyone, from the most developed cities to the most remote villages. This global initiative was grounded in the belief that true unity could only be achieved when every person had the tools and opportunities to connect and contribute. The first step was to implement the network in educational settings. With the power of the interstellar network, schools across the world were connected, allowing students from different cultures and backgrounds to learn from one another. It was an experiment in global education, where students in Tokyo could debate scientific ideas with peers in Sao Paulo, or students in Nairobi could collaborate with classmates in New York. Teachers and educators around the world praised the new system, noting that the most important thing the network offered was not just access to information, but access to new perspectives. Students were no longer isolated in their own bubbles of experience. Instead, they were thrust into a global conversation that made them rethink what it meant to be a part of humanity. The network was a tool not only for learning but for empathy and understanding, creating a shared sense of purpose that extended beyond the classroom. As the Earth-based version of the interstellar network began to flourish, Elon and his team turned their attention to the next phase, expanding the network to Mars and any future off-world colonies. Mars, with its new colony, was an ideal test case for the system. The journey to create a fully connected, interplanetary communication network was not without its challenges. Mars' distance from Earth, the limited infrastructure available on the Red Planet, and the lack of robust internet access all posed significant obstacles. However, Elon's team, along with experts from NASA, SpaceX, and various global scientific organizations, developed solutions that allowed for the seamless connection of Mars with Earth, using a series of advanced satellites and quantum communication methods. The arrival of the first successful Mars-to-Earth communication via the interstellar network was celebrated as a monumental achievement. Elon and Pope Francis watched together, live, as the first communication was sent from Mars to Earth. An inspiring message from the colony's leader, Dr. Elena Serrano, to the people of Earth. In her message, she spoke not just of the challenges faced on Mars, but of the overwhelming sense of hope that the interstellar network had brought. "We are not alone," she said. "We are part of something greater, a community of humanity that transcends the boundaries of space and time. We are connected, not just through technology, but through our shared vision of a future where all humans are united in purpose and love." The success of the Mars connection was symbolic of the larger vision. It proved that technology, when grounded in compassion and shared purpose, could bring about profound change. The interstellar network was no longer just a communication tool. It was a testament to the unity of humanity. As the interstellar network continued to expand, it began to transcend its original purpose. It was no longer just about communication between Earth and Mars, or between humans living in different corners of the world. The network began to connect humans with the very fabric of the universe, allowing them to explore the cosmos in a new and deeply personal way. Astronomers, physicists, and dreamers alike began to use the interstellar network to share their discoveries, to discuss theories, and to participate in real-time simulations of space exploration. The network enabled scientists on Earth to collaborate with astronauts and researchers on Mars, and, eventually, with those in future colonies on the moons of Jupiter or Saturn. But perhaps the most profound change was the impact it had on everyday people. For the first time in human history, an average person, living in any part of the world, could experience the wonder of space, participate in the exploration of the stars, and connect with others across the vastness of the universe. The interstellar network was no longer just a platform. It was the heartbeat of humanity's collective soul. As Elon Musk and Pope Francis stood side by side, looking out over the progress they had helped to create, they knew that the journey was far from over. They had built a world where technology and compassion coexisted, where people were united in their exploration of the stars, but more importantly, in their shared humanity. The interstellar network was just one chapter in the greater story of humanity. As the world continued to evolve, and as humans spread out across the stars, one thing remained clear. The true strength of humanity lay not in its ability to conquer the universe, but in its ability to connect with one another, no matter where they were. As the interstellar network continued to expand, bridging the gap between Earth and Mars, humanity stood on the precipice of a new era, one that intertwined technology, spirituality, and the very essence of what it meant to be human. With the technology to reach the stars and the interconnectedness of all human beings, the question arose: how would humanity navigate its newfound power? Would technology advance at the cost of human values, or would it be used as a tool for moral and ethical progress? Pope Francis and Elon Musk, both key figures in this transformative journey, found themselves grappling with these questions. The success of the interstellar network had proven the potential for a united humanity, one that transcended the divides of culture, geography, and even space. But now, they faced a new challenge: how to ensure that this technological marvel did not become a force that diminished the core values of compassion, empathy, and respect for life. In this chapter, Elon and Pope Francis would meet again, not just as collaborators but as deep thinkers and moral guides. Their discussions would delve into the ethical questions surrounding technology's role in shaping the future, questions that would resonate not just with policymakers and scientists, but with people from all walks of life. The opening moments of the chapter found Elon Musk and Pope Francis seated together in a private, serene room at the Vatican. The room, adorned with ancient paintings and modern technology alike, symbolized the very fusion of tradition and progress that defined their work. The conversation had been ongoing for some time, but today, they had gathered to address one of the most pressing issues facing the world. How could humanity avoid losing its way as it ventured into the cosmos? Technology is an amazing gift, Elon said, his voice thoughtful as he gazed out of the window overlooking the city. It can connect people, save lives, and transform the way we live. But it also has the potential to cause harm, whether it's through surveillance, manipulation, or the destruction of natural resources. We have to be mindful of how we wield that power. Pope Francis nodded, his expression calm but filled with a quiet urgency. Yes, Elon, technology is a tool, but if it becomes the master, it can lead us down dangerous paths. We must remember that progress is not just about what we can do, but what we should do. Technology must be grounded in morality, in the respect for human dignity and the sanctity of life. Elon leaned forward, considering the Pope's words carefully. He had always been a visionary, constantly pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Yet, in this moment, he found himself questioning the broader implications of his work. We've created the interstellar network, Elon said slowly. But what if it is used to control people, to manipulate them, or to spread misinformation? What if it becomes a tool of power rather than a means of connection? The Pope's eyes softened as he answered, "That is precisely why we must establish guiding principles. We need a moral compass, a set of values that guide our technological advancements. Compassion, empathy, respect for freedom, and a deep reverence for life. These must be the cornerstones of any future we create." As the conversation deepened, the focus turned to one of the most controversial aspects of modern technology, artificial intelligence, AI. Elon Musk had long been a proponent of AI, seeing its potential to solve complex problems, enhance human capabilities, and improve the quality of life for all. However, his stance on AI had also been shaped by a deep-seated concern about its potential dangers. The Pope, on the other hand, had always viewed technology with a more cautious perspective. He had spoken often about the importance of preserving human dignity and ensuring that technology served humanity, not the other way around. "The promise of AI is incredible," Elon said, his voice tinged with both excitement and concern. "Imagine what it could do for healthcare, education, and even the environment. But there's a darker side too. AI has the potential to surpass human control. If left unchecked, it could make decisions that go against the very values we hold dear." Pope Francis listened intently, his face reflecting the gravity of the issue at hand. "Yes, Elon, AI can be a powerful force for good, but we must ensure that it aligns with our values, our ethics. The development of AI cannot be solely driven by profit or efficiency. It must be driven by a commitment to the well-being of all people and the preservation of our planet." Elon nodded, fully aware of the weight of the challenge ahead. "We're already working on developing AI that is aligned with ethical principles. But I think we need a global framework, an international agreement that outlines how AI should be developed and deployed. It has to be done with transparency, accountability, and respect for human rights." The discussion then turned to the need for global collaboration on these issues. Elon and the Pope agreed that the challenges facing humanity, whether they were technological, environmental, or moral, could not be solved by any one country or corporation alone. They needed a global effort, one that transcended borders and political ideologies. "We've seen the power of collaboration in the past," Pope Francis said, a hopeful tone in his voice. "When nations came together to address climate change, when we united to send humans to the moon, we demonstrated that humanity is capable of incredible things when we work as one." Elon, ever the pragmatist, responded, "Yes, but it's not enough just to collaborate. We need to set common goals, standards, and values that everyone agrees on. We can't just rely on governments and corporations to figure it out. We need input from every sector of society, from religious leaders to scientists, from educators to everyday citizens." The two men discussed the possibility of creating a global council, a body that would bring together leaders from all sectors of society to guide the ethical development and use of technology. This council would serve as a moral and philosophical check on the powerful advancements that were rapidly reshaping the world. We need a collective vision, Elon said, one that places humanity, not technology, at the center of our future. As the conversation came to a close, both Elon Musk and Pope Francis reflected on the legacy they hoped to leave behind. For Elon, it was about ensuring that the technology he created served the greater good, that it would be a force for progress, not for harm. For Pope Francis, it was about preserving the values of love, empathy, and respect for all of creation, guiding humanity toward a future where technology was used to enhance, rather than replace, the human spirit. I believe we can achieve both, Pope Francis said, his voice soft but resolute. Technology can help us build a better world, but only if we remain grounded in the principles that make us human: compassion, kindness, and a deep respect for all life. Elon nodded thoughtfully. The future can be bright, he said, but it's up to us to make sure it's a future worth reaching for. With the establishment of the interstellar network and the growing global collaboration on technology's ethical development, humanity stood at a crossroads. The world was more connected than ever before, but with this newfound unity came the responsibility to ensure that technology served not just the powerful, but the entire human race. As the interstellar network continued to expand, and as humanity reached further into the cosmos, the conversation between Elon Musk and Pope Francis would echo across time and space. It was a reminder that the future of technology and the future of humanity were inextricably linked, not in the machines they built, but in the hearts and minds of the people who used them. In the years following the creation of the interstellar network, humanity found itself on the cusp of an unprecedented transformation. Elon Musk's vision of a united human race, connected across planets and ideologies, was beginning to take shape. However, despite the technological strides made, one fundamental challenge remained. How could the entire world, divided by politics, history, and culture, unite around common goals in this new era of exploration and innovation? To answer this question, Elon and Pope Francis took the monumental step of convening a global summit, one that would bring together world leaders, innovators, scientists, spiritual figures, and everyday citizens to chart a course for humanity's future. This summit, held in Geneva, would be the first of its kind, a gathering focused not only on technological advancement, but on the moral and philosophical questions that would define the 21st century. The summit would take place against the backdrop of a rapidly changing world, one where technology had made the impossible possible, where humanity had touched the stars, and where new moral questions emerged daily about the role of artificial intelligence, human rights, and the environment. As the opening ceremony unfolded in the grand halls of the United Nations complex in Geneva, the world watched with bated breath. Representatives from every corner of the globe were present, sitting side by side, sharing the same space as some of the most brilliant minds of the era. The purpose was clear: to confront the pressing challenges of the future and to ensure that technology would be used to uplift, rather than divide, humanity. Elon Musk took to the stage first. His usual demeanor of confidence was tempered by the gravity of the moment. The audience, a sea of politicians, scientists, and spiritual leaders, listened intently as Elon addressed them with the urgency of someone who knew that humanity's future hung in the balance. "We stand at the threshold of a new age," Elon began, his voice steady but full of conviction. "An age where the boundaries of what we thought possible are no longer defined by the limits of the Earth, but by our own imagination. We've connected the world, we've sent humans to Mars, and we've built a platform for us to communicate across the stars. But this is only the beginning." He paused, looking out at the audience, each face reflecting the seriousness of the task ahead. "The question we now face is not whether we can reach Mars or develop artificial intelligence. It's whether we can build a future that is inclusive, compassionate, and truly global. Whether we can use these tools, not just for technological advancement, but for the betterment of all." The room was still. It was clear that Elon's words had struck a chord. This was not a conversation about the technical possibilities of the future. It was about ensuring that humanity could take on these monumental challenges with integrity. Pope Francis followed Elon to the stage, his presence a calming influence. The applause was quieter than before, but it was filled with reverence. The Pope, with his gentle but powerful demeanor, addressed the audience with a message of hope. "Technology is not an end in itself," the Pope said. It is a means to build a world where dignity, love, and compassion are the cornerstones of our existence. We must ensure that as we move forward, we do not lose sight of the values that make us human. Our relationship with technology must be one of stewardship, not domination. He continued, we have the opportunity, as never before, to build a future where no one is left behind, where every voice, every dream, every person is heard. This is our challenge, not just to advance in science, but to advance in humanity. Over the next few days, the summit would host a series of discussions, workshops, and panels designed to confront the most pressing issues of the day. From the ethical implications of artificial intelligence to the preservation of the environment and the prevention of future conflicts, the summit's agenda was vast. The conversations were not limited to experts. Citizens from around the world, who had connected through the Interstellar Network, were given the opportunity to join the dialogue as well. For the first time in history, everyday people had a seat at the table alongside world leaders, contributing their voices to the global conversation. One of the most anticipated discussions of the summit was the panel on artificial intelligence. As AI continued to develop at an astonishing rate, questions about its ethical implications dominated the agenda. Could AI be trusted with the future of humanity? Should AI be given autonomy, or should its development be strictly controlled? Elon Musk, a longtime advocate for cautious AI development, led the discussion. AI is not inherently good or evil, he said. It is a tool, just like any other. The problem lies in how we use it. If AI is allowed to evolve unchecked, we risk creating something that could surpass human control, something that could act against our best interests. This is why we need a global framework, a set of universal ethical guidelines to govern AI development. He turned to the audience, asking for their input. This cannot be a decision made by a few corporations or governments. It must be a decision made by all of humanity. What kind of future do we want for our children? A future where AI serves us, or a future where we serve AI? A representative from India, a young woman named Asha Patel, stood up and spoke. I agree with Elon, but we must also ensure that AI is used to uplift the most disadvantaged. In many parts of the world, access to technology is still a luxury. AI has the potential to revolutionize healthcare, education, and agriculture, but it must be deployed in a way that does not deepen the divide between the rich and the poor. Pope Francis added his voice to the conversation. AI must be a force for the common good. It must not be used to exploit the vulnerable or to create new forms of inequality. Its purpose must always be to enhance human dignity, to protect life, and to preserve the planet. The conversation went on for hours, with passionate debates, but by the end of the day, a consensus had begun to form. A global ethical framework for AI development would be created, one that would prioritize human dignity, protect the environment, and ensure that AI benefited all of humanity, not just the few. Another critical issue that dominated the summit was the environment. The Earth Initiative, born from Elon Musk's commitment to saving the planet, had seen significant success in reversing environmental damage. Yet, the question remained: how could humanity ensure the preservation of Earth while also embarking on an era of interplanetary expansion? A panel on sustainability was led by environmental scientists and leaders, including Dr. Sophia Chung, a renowned climate scientist from China. She spoke passionately about the need for continued global cooperation to protect Earth's fragile ecosystems. Elon's vision for Mars is incredible, she said, but we cannot abandon Earth in pursuit of other worlds. Mars is not a backup plan. It is an extension of our future. But our home is here, on Earth. We must care for it as if our survival depends on it, because it does. Elon, who had been instrumental in spearheading Earth-saving initiatives, acknowledged the importance of continued environmental stewardship. The challenge we face is twofold, he said. We must ensure that our exploration of the stars does not come at the expense of the Earth. And we must also work to ensure that the resources and knowledge we gain from space are used to help our planet heal. Pope Francis added, "The Earth is a gift from God. It is our duty to protect it for future generations. We cannot forget that our actions today will determine the quality of life for those who come after us." As the summit came to a close, it was clear that the discussions had sparked a new era of global cooperation. The commitments made by world leaders, innovators, and citizens were significant, but more importantly, they laid the foundation for a world where humanity was united not just by technology, but by shared values and a common purpose. Elon Musk and Pope Francis stood together on the final day of the summit, addressing the crowd one last time. "The future is not written in the stars," Elon said. "It is written by the choices we make today. We have the tools, the knowledge, and the vision to create a future that is not just technologically advanced, but morally grounded. A future where we reach for the stars, but never forget the earth beneath our feet." Pope Francis added, "Let us move forward with hope, with courage, and with a deep commitment to the common good. We are not just citizens of our countries, but citizens of humanity. Together, we can build a future where all are respected, where all are valued, and where all have the opportunity to thrive." The world was in a state of flux. Following the groundbreaking global summit, there was a palpable sense of unity and hope that transcended borders and cultures. Yet, beneath the surface, tensions simmered. As humanity continued to push the boundaries of what was possible, launching missions to Mars, exploring artificial intelligence, and tackling environmental crises, new conflicts arose. These were not only conflicts of ideology, but also of power, resources, and the question of who would control the future. While the summit had sparked a global sense of collaboration, it was clear that some were more reluctant to embrace these changes. There were those who feared the rapid pace of technological advancement, believing it threatened their way of life. There were others who questioned the ethics behind such progress, particularly when it came to artificial intelligence, surveillance technologies, and the environmental costs of technological expansion. In this chapter, Elon Musk and Pope Francis would face the challenge of reconciling these divisions, both within their own minds and between factions around the world. The issue was not whether the future was inevitable, but how to ensure that this future was just, equitable, and beneficial for all of humanity, not just the privileged few. The tension between the potential benefits of technology and the fears of its consequences grew louder as different voices came into the fold. The new global collaborations were strained by these disagreements. While some people celebrated technological advances, particularly the promise of artificial intelligence and space colonization, others were more cautious, raising concerns about the risks they posed. At a private meeting with world leaders, Elon Musk found himself at the center of a heated debate. Some leaders expressed their fears that AI was evolving too quickly, while others worried that the growing power of private companies like SpaceX could lead to a monopoly over space travel and resources. A representative from a developing nation stood up and passionately spoke. "You're talking about colonizing Mars," the representative said, "but what about Earth? We don't have the infrastructure or the resources to compete with these technological giants. The people in my country don't even have access to basic education, let alone the opportunities to participate in these space programs. This is a divide that we can't ignore." Elon's face was calm, but there was a fire in his eyes. "I understand your concerns," he said, "but we can't wait for the perfect moment. We have to push forward. Space exploration is the next frontier. It's our best shot at ensuring the survival of humanity in the long run. But that doesn't mean we ignore Earth. In fact, the technologies we develop to explore space can help solve many of the problems we face here." Despite his calm, Elon was feeling the weight of the tension. The concerns raised were valid. How could they navigate this divide between progress and fairness, between the urgency of space exploration and the slow pace of addressing Earth's problems? Back in Rome, Pope Francis was reflecting on the same issues. While he believed in the power of progress, he also felt deeply that technology needed to be guided by a moral compass. In his weekly address to the people, he spoke passionately about the growing divide. Technology, for all its wonders, is not a cure-all. It cannot fix the injustices that are at the heart of the human experience. We must not allow ourselves to be swept away by the promise of progress at the cost of compassion, Pope Francis said, his voice strong but filled with empathy. The Pope's words resonated across the globe. As people grappled with the potential benefits of space exploration and AI, they were reminded of the core message of unity and compassion. But even as the Pope spoke with conviction, he knew that bridging the divide would take more than just words. It would take action, actions that would bring the leaders of the world together in a way that had never been done before. In a private meeting with Elon Musk, The Pope reflected on the growing global resistance to unchecked progress. I know you want to move forward, Elon, but we must not forget those who are left behind. The marginalized, the disenfranchised. These are the voices we must listen to. If we do not, our progress will be hollow. We cannot build a future that benefits only the few. Elon nodded, understanding the Pope's concerns. I agree, Your Holiness. But I also believe that technology can level the playing field. We have the tools to create jobs, solve problems, and even combat climate change. The key is ensuring that no one is left out of this equation. Pope Francis smiled softly. It is true that technology can offer great hope, but the hope must be universal, not just for those who can afford it. The future must be inclusive. That's the challenge we face together. Elon Musk and Pope Francis, though coming from vastly different worlds, found themselves in agreement on one critical point. The future must be one of inclusivity, cooperation, and shared values. It wasn't enough to push forward with technology. The world needed to come together to ensure that no one was left behind. A plan began to take shape. Instead of focusing on space exploration and technological progress in isolation, Elon and Pope Francis worked together to create a new framework, one that tied technological advancements to global cooperation and the alleviation of poverty, inequality, and environmental degradation. We need to bring the entire world into this conversation, Elon said. We can't just push these advancements from the top down. The people who are affected by these changes, those who are on the ground, living with the consequences of our decisions, need to have a voice. The Pope agreed. Technology is only a tool. The way we use it must be determined by our shared humanity. And this humanity must be for everyone, not just the privileged few. As the discussions continued, the two leaders, supported by a growing coalition of global thinkers, set out to create a platform for international cooperation. This platform would bring together governments, businesses, religious organizations, and citizens to collectively determine how technology could be developed and used to solve the world's most pressing issues. This would not be a top-down approach. It would be a participatory, democratic model in which everyone had a say in how progress was achieved. As the weeks turned into months, Elon and Pope Francis took their vision for global cooperation to the world stage. The plan was ambitious. A series of global summits would be held, not just in wealthy nations but in developing regions, so that the voices of the marginalized could be heard. These summits would focus on finding practical, ethical, and sustainable ways to use technology for the benefit of all, particularly those who had been left behind by the rapid pace of progress. Elon Musk, though often seen as a disruptor, found himself increasingly focused on the broader social implications of his work. He worked alongside the Pope to implement projects that would address the root causes of inequality, access to education, healthcare, clean energy, and jobs. In the coming years, the fruits of this new partnership began to emerge. Governments across the world began to adopt policies that prioritized both technological progress and social equity. Corporate giants, once driven solely by profit, began to focus on sustainable practices, working with governments and religious organizations to support initiatives that improved the lives of the most vulnerable. While the path was not easy, it was clear that humanity was moving toward a more balanced future, one that combined the best of technological innovation with a deep commitment to human dignity, fairness, and sustainability. As the chapter drew to a close, both Elon Musk and Pope Francis reflected on their journey. They had come from different worlds, but their shared vision of a better future for all had brought them together in ways neither could have predicted. The future is not about technology or space exploration, Elon mused, looking out over the bustling streets of a city that was now filled with hope. It's about people. If we can get this right, if we can use technology to uplift humanity, to create a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, then we will have succeeded. Pope Francis nodded, his expression serene. The world is changing, Elon, but change must come with compassion. Progress without empathy is not progress at all. And with that, the two men knew that the real work had only just begun. The future was in their hands, in the hands of all those who dared to dream, to hope, and to build a world of unity, equality, and shared purpose. The global movement that Elon Musk and Pope Francis had sparked was gaining traction. Their partnership, once seen as an unlikely alliance between technology and faith, had become the rallying point for a worldwide effort to balance progress with compassion. The question was no longer whether humanity could harness the tools of the future. The question was whether they could do so in a way that honored the dignity of all people, regardless of their background, nationality, or economic status. However, as with any great movement, there were those who stood in opposition, questioning the motives behind this alliance and the very idea of uniting such disparate forces. Some saw Elon Musk's ventures into space and artificial intelligence as a distraction from the real problems of Earth, while others viewed Pope Francis' involvement as a challenge to their secular beliefs. As the movement gained momentum, the pressure on both men increased. Could they maintain their shared vision amid the growing criticisms and doubts? As the partnership between Elon and Pope Francis grew more visible, the critics grew louder. In a world where polarizing opinions were common, the union of a tech billionaire and a religious leader was never going to be without controversy. A prominent secular philosopher, Dr. Robert Sinclair, voiced his concerns in a public debate. What we're witnessing is a dangerous fusion of faith and technology, he argued. Elon Musk is a brilliant entrepreneur, but he's not a moral philosopher. And Pope Francis, as much as I respect his efforts for peace, is not a technologist. This alliance, while it may sound noble, is built on a flawed premise. We need to focus on critical issues, economic inequality, environmental collapse, and social justice, without getting sidetracked by the idea that space exploration and AI are the answers to our problems. In response, Elon Musk took the stage in a global interview broadcast, his words calm but firm. Dr. Sinclair raises an important point, Elon said, but I believe he's missing the larger picture. The challenge we face is not a binary one. The issues we face, poverty, inequality, climate change, are not just problems that can be solved with policy or charity alone. We need innovation, we need new technologies, and we need new thinking. We have the tools to radically transform the world, and we must ensure that these tools are used for good, for all people. Pope Francis also weighed in, offering his perspective from a place of moral and spiritual leadership. Technology and faith are not opposing forces, he said. They are tools. One can be used to elevate the human condition, the other to guide us toward compassion and justice. It is only when we combine these forces, when we ensure that our progress is always guided by empathy, that our technological advancements are always checked by morality, that we can achieve true, lasting peace. As the criticisms continued, global leaders began to take sides. While many praised the collaboration between Elon and Pope Francis, seeing it as a model for global cooperation, others expressed doubt. Some feared that the technological race Musk championed would lead to inequality, creating a new class of elites who controlled both space and the Earth's resources. Others were concerned that the moral and spiritual influence of the Pope could result in undue religious influence on policy, threatening secular governance. One key point of contention was the idea of a global tax on space exploration and technological innovation. Some countries, particularly those with limited technological infrastructure, argued that the wealth generated by space industries should be used to alleviate poverty and provide access to technology and education for the less fortunate. Others, particularly in wealthier nations, saw this as an attempt to redistribute resources unfairly. In a tense United Nations meeting, a representative from the United States argued, "While we applaud the ambitions of both Elon Musk and Pope Francis, we must be careful not to let global governance become a system of economic redistribution through taxes. We can't allow the global community to regulate the pace of innovation to the point where it stifles growth." Meanwhile, a representative from Brazil, a nation deeply impacted by deforestation and environmental challenges, countered, "We can't afford to turn a blind eye to the impact that unchecked technological growth can have on the planet. We need to ensure that the benefits of space exploration and artificial intelligence are used to address our global crises, not just enrich the few." The debate was heated. Tensions were rising as world leaders, grappling with how to balance these competing interests, found themselves in a political standoff. The diplomatic process was slow, and many were frustrated by the lack of progress. Despite the rising tension, there was a shift occurring in the broader population. On the streets of cities around the world, people were beginning to rally around the vision of a more equitable future. Social media platforms were flooded with messages of support for the movement, as citizens from all walks of life, engineers, educators, parents, activists, came together to demand that technological progress be used for the common good. A viral hashtag #TechForAll, began trending globally, representing the growing support for a future in which technology was not a luxury, but a tool for everyone. People who had once been skeptical of Elon Musk's ambitions or dismissive of Pope Francis' spiritual leadership now found common ground in the message of inclusion, compassion, and sustainability. In communities around the world, grassroots organizations began organizing local initiatives that aligned with the vision of this new global movement. In impoverished regions, access to clean water and renewable energy sources began to improve, thanks to new technologies designed to be both affordable and sustainable. Local tech hubs sprung up in places once considered too poor to attract major investment, giving young innovators the chance to build solutions that addressed the unique challenges of their communities. One example was in Kenya, where a group of young engineers, inspired by the vision of Musk's SpaceX and the Pope's message of hope, designed low-cost solar panels and water filtration systems for rural villages. These projects were funded by a mix of global crowdfunding and partnerships with companies like Tesla, who had committed to providing affordable, scalable solutions to underdeveloped regions. Elon Musk, upon hearing about these projects, visited the villages in Kenya, personally thanking the innovators for their work. "This is the future," he said, addressing the crowd. "Technology is not about taking from the world, it's about giving back. If we use our resources wisely, we can create a future where no one is left behind." Amid the support, there was still resistance. The path forward was never going to be easy, and Elon and Pope Francis knew that they would be tested. The questions surrounding their partnership were not going away. Were they pushing too fast? Were they failing to account for the realities on the ground? Was this alliance truly for the common good, or was it a ploy by the elites to consolidate power? A defining moment came when a major ethical dilemma arose regarding the use of AI in warfare. As AI technology advanced, the question of its potential militarization became unavoidable. Would AI be used to ensure peace and security, or would it become a tool of war, further exacerbating global tensions? At a special session convened by the United Nations, Elon and Pope Francis were once again called upon to address these issues. Elon, who had long advocated for the peaceful use of AI, was resolute in his belief that the technology should never be weaponized. "AI should be a force for good," he said. "If we allow it to be used for violence, we are abandoning the very principles we've worked so hard to establish." Pope Francis, with his characteristic compassion, added, "War is not the solution to our problems." The use of AI in warfare would represent a moral failure, a failure to embrace the core of what it means to be human, to work for peace, for understanding, and for reconciliation. Together, they proposed a binding global treaty on the peaceful use of AI, ensuring that it would never be used for military conflict. The treaty would include strict oversight, transparency, and accountability mechanisms, and would require the participation of all nations. The world held its breath as the negotiations unfolded. The stakes were high. This was a test of the very ideals that Elon and Pope Francis had championed. Would they be able to navigate this ethical minefield, or would their partnership crumble under the weight of these moral dilemmas? The world was on the edge of a new era, one that could either ignite a future of unprecedented cooperation or unravel into chaos. As tensions between nations and ideological groups mounted, the true test of Elon Musk and Pope Francis' vision was at hand. In this chapter, the global stage would shift as they were called to act not just as influencers, but as the architects of a global transformation. Their collaboration would now be defined by their ability to forge not just agreements, but a united front capable of facing the existential crises of the 21st century. The growing presence of AI in warfare, the division between the technologically advanced and the developing world, and the moral implications of unchecked progress were not just theoretical anymore. These were real threats, and time was running out. Elon and the Pope knew they had to confront them head-on and fast. But what exactly was the world asking of them? Was it enough to deliver technological solutions, or did it require something more profound, something that challenged the very essence of what it meant to be human? In a final, decisive move, Elon Musk and Pope Francis called for an emergency global summit in Geneva, Switzerland, a place known for fostering diplomacy and unity. This summit would not just be about presenting ideas, it would be about forging an agreement that addressed the heart of humanity's most urgent issues: climate change, inequality, the ethical use of AI, and the need for sustainable development. Leaders from across the world gathered, from heads of state to innovators and philosophers. The air was thick with anticipation. Everyone knew this was more than just another diplomatic meeting. It was the culmination of years of discourse, debate, and collaboration, and it could either change the world or lead to an even deeper divide. Elon took the stage first. We are facing challenges that, if left unchecked, will render the very concept of progress meaningless. We have the technology to create a sustainable world, to provide education and healthcare for everyone, to explore new frontiers beyond Earth, and to safeguard humanity's future. But this future can only be realized if we come together as one global community, committed to using technology for the collective good. The room was silent. People leaned forward, hanging on his every word. Elon's passion was undeniable, but so was his understanding of the gravity of the moment. Pope Francis followed, his presence a contrast to the technological prowess of Elon's words. He spoke softly, yet with the weight of centuries of religious and moral teachings behind him. "We have all been entrusted with a duty," Pope Francis said, "a duty to protect not just the Earth, but the soul of humanity. Technology is not just a tool. It is a mirror that reflects who we are as a society. If we allow technology to be driven solely by profit, by greed, or by fear, we will lose our way. But if we approach this era with compassion and a deep respect for our shared humanity, we can shape a future that benefits every single person." The room was filled with applause. People were inspired, yet the skepticism still lingered in the air. Could a single summit change the course of history? The proposed framework, which Elon and Pope Francis unveiled, was groundbreaking in its simplicity yet radical in its approach. It centered around 4 key pillars. 1. Global collaboration in technology development. Nations, corporations, and innovators must work together to develop technologies that address the world's most urgent needs. This collaboration would be grounded in transparency and inclusivity, with all nations, rich or poor, having access to technological advances. 2. Ethical guidelines for AI and automation. A global treaty would be established to ensure that AI and automation were developed and used ethically. The focus would be on human dignity and the preservation of jobs, ensuring that no one would be left behind as automation took hold in industries around the world. 3. Sustainable innovation. A commitment to using technology to combat climate change, promote renewable energy, and ensure environmental sustainability. Every technological advancement must adhere to a strict set of guidelines designed to protect the planet for future generations. 4. Education and empowerment. A global initiative to ensure that everyone, regardless of location, had access to quality education and the tools necessary to thrive in a technologically advanced world. This would include investment in universal digital literacy, vocational training, and access to the internet for all. Elon Musk's role was clear. He would continue to push the boundaries of space exploration and technological innovation, but he would do so with the understanding that his work was now part of a larger global initiative. Meanwhile, Pope Francis' role was equally pivotal. His moral leadership would guide the implementation of these technologies, ensuring that they were used in a way that upheld human dignity and the common good. The framework was ambitious, but it was clear to everyone present that this was the only way forward. The future could no longer be built in isolation. It had to be a collaborative, compassionate effort that involved every nation, every individual, and every technological advance working toward the same goal. Not everyone was on board, however. As with any major global shift, there were those who resisted. Several countries, particularly those with strong vested interests in maintaining their dominance over technology or natural resources, expressed their opposition. "While the framework sounds promising, it's unworkable," said a representative from Russia. "This global collaboration you propose will only serve to weaken national sovereignty. Each country must control its own future, and we cannot allow outside forces to dictate how we develop and deploy our resources." A representative from India, another rising global power, raised similar concerns. "We understand the need for collaboration, But the world must recognize that every nation is at a different stage of development. We cannot allow a one-size-fits-all approach. Our people deserve to have the freedom to develop technologies that fit our unique needs. There was also pushback from powerful tech corporations that feared regulation would stifle innovation and growth. In response to these concerns, Elon Musk argued, "This isn't about stifling innovation. It's about ensuring that innovation is used for the good of all people. The future isn't about isolated countries or corporations. It's about a global community. We have the tools to make this work. It's about having the will to act." Pope Francis offered a softer but equally firm rebuttal. This is not a call for greater control. It is a call for greater responsibility. We cannot continue to let the greed of a few dictate the future of the many. The debates raged on for days, with tensions running high. Some nations walked out of the summit, unwilling to accept the compromises that were being proposed. But the core group of supporters, led by Elon and Pope Francis, remained steadfast. The world had come too far, and the stakes were too high to turn back now. In a historic moment, the summit concluded with a final agreement, a global pact that would pave the way for a new era of cooperation, responsibility, and technological progress. While it wasn't perfect, the pact represented the best chance humanity had to navigate the challenges of the 21st century. The agreement was clear. Technology must serve humanity, not the other way around. Space exploration, AI, and every other technological breakthrough would be guided by a moral framework that prioritized sustainability, equality, and the well-being of all people. Elon Musk and Pope Francis stood side by side as they signed the agreement, their signature symbols of the unity between technology and faith. For the first time in history, these two powerful forces had come together, and their combined vision had sparked a global movement. The world was forever changed, but the true test was still ahead. Would the world rise to meet the challenges ahead, or would the promises made in Geneva prove to be nothing more than words? The signing of the Global Pact in Geneva was a moment of hope, but it was only the beginning of a long and challenging road. The world watched closely, waiting to see if this new agreement would lead to tangible changes, or if it would fade into obscurity like so many other well-meaning global initiatives. Elon Musk and Pope Francis knew that their work was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. The pact had set the stage for a new world order, one where technology would no longer be a tool for the few, but a resource for the many. But in a world as complex and divided as ours, implementing such sweeping change would require more than just good intentions. It would require action from governments, corporations, communities, and individuals. Elon's and Pope Francis' commitment to the cause was unwavering, but they quickly realized that to make the pact a reality, they would need to inspire not just the political and economic elites, but the masses. This was not a top-down revolution. It had to be a grassroots movement, with ordinary people taking the lead in making the world a better place. The first signs of change came from unexpected places. Across the globe, communities began to organize themselves around the principles outlined in the pact. Local activists, young people, and everyday citizens started to adopt the ideals of technology for good, sustainability, and equality, using the tools they had to make real, concrete changes in their own neighborhoods. In the United States, a group of engineers in a small town in Michigan launched a community-driven solar energy project. They had access to basic technology, but they lacked the resources to make it a reality. But with the help of a crowdfunding campaign, supported by the global network of people inspired by the pact, they were able to fund the construction of a solar-powered grid that would provide affordable energy to hundreds of homes in their town. Similarly, in India, a tech startup created a digital platform that allowed farmers in rural areas to access real-time weather forecasts, crop management advice, and market prices. This platform, built with the help of local engineers and backed by the ethos of the pact, revolutionized the way these farmers operated, leading to increased yields and income. Elon and Pope Francis celebrated these grassroots initiatives, seeing them as the proof that their vision could be realized. These projects weren't just small successes. They were the building blocks of a new kind of world, one where technology served everyone, not just the privileged few. While grassroots movements were beginning to take root, the larger question remained. Would the global corporations and economic systems that had long been the driving forces behind inequality embrace the new paradigm outlined in the pact? Elon Musk knew that the most powerful way to ensure lasting change was to align the world's largest companies with the goals of the global pact. As the world's most innovative companies, from Tesla to SpaceX, began to align themselves with the principles of the pact, a ripple effect was set in motion. In the business world, a growing movement called Tech for Humanity began to take hold. CEOs of major corporations were now being held accountable, not just for their profits, but for how their businesses impacted society. The first breakthrough came when Tesla announced that it would open source its battery technology. This move was groundbreaking. It meant that anyone, anywhere in the world, could access Tesla's technology and use it to create sustainable energy solutions in their own communities. While this move was risky, Elon knew it was the right thing to do. "I didn't start Tesla to be the richest man in the world," Elon said during a press conference. "I started it to help the world. And now, it's time for all of us, every company, every person, to be part of the solution. We're in this together." Other companies followed suit, with global tech giants like Google and Microsoft making similar pledges to align their innovations with the values of sustainability, equality, and shared prosperity. However, there were still those who questioned whether these moves were genuine or just a new form of corporate greenwashing. Elon and Pope Francis knew they would need to stay vigilant, constantly pushing for greater transparency and accountability. Despite the growing momentum, the old guard, those who had profited from the status quo, wasn't going to give up without a fight. Corporations with interests in oil, defense, and other industries that had benefited from a lack of regulation began to push back against the global pact's influence. Some governments, too, began to express concerns about losing control over their national industries and sovereignty. In a high-profile speech, a representative from a major oil company made it clear that they weren't ready to fully embrace the new order. "We understand the importance of sustainability," the representative said, "but we cannot ignore the reality that energy demands are still growing. The world needs oil and gas, and while we support innovation, we cannot allow ourselves to be forced into a rapid transition without ensuring stability." This resistance wasn't limited to corporations. Some governments, especially in resource-rich nations, feared that the transition to renewable energy would undermine their economies. "We must consider our national interests," said a leader of a major oil-producing country. "The world can't simply wish away the energy needs of developing nations. This must be a gradual transition." Elon Musk, ever the optimist but also a realist, responded, "The world is changing whether we like it or not. The transition to renewable energy is inevitable. We can either lead the change, or we can be left behind." Pope Francis, on the other hand, took a more spiritual approach. "This is not just a matter of economics. It's a matter of survival. We cannot continue to prioritize short-term profits over the long-term health of our planet. We must act with the urgency that the situation demands." Despite the resistance, both Elon and Pope Francis stood firm in their belief that change was not just necessary, it was possible. But the question remained, could the resistance be overcome before it was too late? The world's growing commitment to the pact was put to the test in an unexpected way when a major environmental disaster struck. A massive wildfire, fueled by years of climate neglect, ravaged the forests of the Amazon. The fire spread across national borders, threatening the survival of indigenous communities and releasing massive amounts of carbon into the atmosphere. This disaster would become a rallying cry for those pushing for faster and more aggressive action on climate change. As news of the fire spread, Elon Musk took immediate action, offering Tesla's advanced satellite technology to help detect and combat the fires. He also worked with local organizations to deploy solar-powered drones to assist in firefighting efforts, providing both immediate relief and long-term solutions to prevent future disasters. Pope Francis, from the Vatican, issued a powerful statement. "The fires in the Amazon are not just a tragedy for one country or one people. They are a tragedy for all of us. This is our world burning, our planet suffering, and it is time we come together as one to protect it." The global outcry was immediate, and governments, corporations, and individuals began to mobilize like never before. The fire became a symbol of the urgency of the task at hand. It was a wake-up call, a moment of crisis that could either catalyze the world into action or fracture it further. The fires in the Amazon had left their mark, not just on the land, but on the hearts and minds of people around the world. The imagery of flames consuming the earth, communities displaced, and wildlife decimated became a global symbol of the dangerous path humanity was on. People who had never given much thought to environmental issues now found themselves shaken by the reality of climate change. The urgency that Elon Musk and Pope Francis had called for was no longer a distant concept, it was a lived reality. In the weeks following the fire, the world experienced a profound shift. What began as a movement for sustainable technology and ethical development turned into a full-blown global awakening. Governments that had once been hesitant to act now found themselves under immense pressure from their people. In cities across the globe, from London to Tokyo, Paris to Sao Paulo, millions of people took to the streets, demanding that their leaders act on climate change, technology ethics, and social justice. Elon Musk, who had been deeply involved in technological solutions for sustainability, doubled down on his commitment. He pushed Tesla to expand its renewable energy initiatives even faster, launching solar-powered battery solutions to provide electricity to areas affected by the fires. In a televised address, Elon spoke directly to the world. We can no longer afford to ignore the signs. The Amazon fires are a symptom of a much larger issue, a system that prioritizes short-term gain over long-term survival. We must act now. The future of humanity depends on it. Pope Francis, who had long warned about the destructive forces of unchecked greed and the importance of caring for creation, was equally resolute in his messaging. His call for a culture of care resonated deeply with those who had been moved by the images of devastation. "We are one human family," the Pope said in a sermon broadcast worldwide. The fire in the Amazon is not just a tragedy for Brazil or for the indigenous communities, but for all of us. We share this planet, and its destruction is our destruction. But while the message was clear, the path forward was anything but easy. The world was awakening, yes, but it was also deeply divided. The old guard, the entrenched corporate and political interests that had long resisted change, were still fighting back. Some countries saw the pact as a threat to their sovereignty, and corporations that had long profited from unsustainable industries were not ready to give up their hold on power. In the aftermath of the Amazon fires, the opposition to the global pact became more vocal. Political leaders from resource-rich countries were beginning to argue that the pact's demands were unrealistic, particularly for developing nations that still relied on fossil fuels to grow their economies. A tense summit in Beijing highlighted these growing tensions. Representatives from oil-producing countries like Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and Russia argued that the transition to renewable energy would devastate their economies. "We are being asked to sacrifice our future for the sake of an idealistic vision that will only benefit the wealthiest nations," a Russian diplomat said at the summit. "What about our people? What about our workers?" Elon Musk, speaking from a live feed, countered, "The transition will be difficult, but it is not impossible. The future of energy lies in renewables. We have the technology to create millions of jobs in the green sector, if we are willing to invest in the future." But the reality was complex. While some countries were beginning to see the economic benefits of renewable energy, others feared that they would be left behind in a rapidly changing world. Pope Francis' message of solidarity was crucial during these tense moments. "We cannot choose between the poor and the planet," he said. "Both must be protected. A future that leaves some behind is a future we must reject." As global negotiations grew more strained, it became clear that the road to a sustainable future was not just about creating technological solutions. It was about changing hearts and minds. And that would take time. Despite the resistance, new voices began to emerge on the global stage, voices that were willing to push the boundaries and challenge the status quo. In the wake of the Amazon fires and the growing global call for action, a new generation of leaders began to rise. These were young activists, entrepreneurs, and visionaries who had grown up in a world shaped by climate change and social injustice. One of the most powerful voices to emerge was that of 23-year-old Maria Lopez, a climate activist from Mexico City who had been rallying young people for months in the wake of the Amazon fires. Her speech at the United Nations Climate Conference was one of the defining moments of the year. "We are the ones who will inherit this planet," Maria said, her voice trembling with emotion. "We are the ones who will bear the consequences of the decisions you make today. You may be the leaders now, but we will be the leaders of tomorrow. And we will demand a future where the planet is cared for, where technology works for the people, not the other way around. Maria's words echoed across social media, and within hours, her speech was trending worldwide. The youth had spoken, and their demands were clear. No more delays. No more excuses. It was time for the world's leaders to act. Maria's rise as a global leader marked the beginning of a new era of activism. Young people around the world began to organize, building on the momentum of the Global Pact and pushing for greater action on climate change, human rights, and sustainable development. As the world continued to grapple with the challenges of climate change, technology, and inequality, it became clear that the traditional models of leadership were no longer sufficient. The old ways of doing politics, dominated by the interests of corporations and wealthy nations, were being challenged by a new, more inclusive and transparent model of governance. It was a model that sought to address the root causes of inequality, poverty, and environmental degradation, rather than simply managing the symptoms. Governments began to introduce new policies that focused on sustainability, social justice, and ethical development. In Europe, the Green New Deal was passed, which not only invested in renewable energy but also prioritized social welfare programs, universal health care, and a living wage for all workers. In Africa, countries that had long been reliant on extractive industries began to shift toward green economies, investing in solar and wind energy, and building infrastructure for sustainable growth. But perhaps the most radical change came in the form of a new kind of international collaboration. The Global Pact was no longer just a document, it had become a movement. Countries began to share resources, technology, and knowledge more freely, building a global network of cooperation that transcended borders. The United Nations, once a symbol of divided nations, became the hub of this new global movement. With Elon Musk and Pope Francis at the forefront, the UN became a platform for collaboration, where leaders of all nations came together to create policies that balance the needs of people, the planet, and future generations. As the years passed, the world continued to evolve in ways that were both hopeful and challenging. The efforts of Elon Musk, Pope Francis, and countless others had laid the groundwork for a new kind of global cooperation, one rooted in the belief that technology could be a force for good and that humanity's future could be built on values of sustainability and social justice. However, the world's transformation was far from complete. While progress had been made, the road ahead was still filled with obstacles. The forces of resistance, whether in the form of corporate greed, political short-sightedness, or environmental degradation, were still at play. Would the lessons learned from the past be enough to overcome these challenges? Or would the forces of destruction prove stronger than the forces of change? Elon Musk and Pope Francis knew that the future was never guaranteed. But they also knew that the path they had chosen was the only one worth taking. And with the collective will of a united global community behind them, they believed that anything was possible. As the years passed, the momentum for change that had begun with the Amazon fires continued to gain strength. What started as a global awakening had evolved into a movement so powerful that it was impossible to ignore. The efforts of Elon Musk, Pope Francis, and the new generation of leaders, people like Maria Lopez and countless others, had sparked a shift in the global consciousness. People across the world were no longer content to watch from the sidelines. They were now active participants in creating a more sustainable, just, and compassionate future. But just as the world began to experience the fruits of this collective effort, another major crisis threatened to derail everything they had worked for. The climate, already on the brink of collapse, took another devastating turn. Extreme weather events became more frequent and severe. Floods, hurricanes, and droughts ravaged parts of the world. A new scientific report warned that the planet had entered a period of irreversible environmental decline. The world's ecosystems were under siege, and humanity's window for avoiding the worst outcomes was rapidly closing. In the face of this new crisis, there was no time for complacency. The work that had begun with such optimism, the Global Pact, and all the efforts to promote sustainability and ethical development were put to the ultimate test. Could humanity, after all this progress, rise to the occasion and make the hard choices necessary to secure a future? Elon Musk, now recognized as one of the leading voices of this global movement, knew the stakes. He had dedicated his life to technological advancement, but this moment was different. It wasn't about innovation for innovation's sake. It was about survival. SpaceX, Tesla, and all his ventures were now focused on one clear goal: to ensure the survival of humanity and the planet. Elon addressed the world in a live broadcast, speaking with a sense of urgency that had never been present in his previous public appearances. "We've made progress, but time is running out. The technologies we've developed are not enough on their own. It's not just about what we can do with solar power, electric cars, or colonizing Mars. It's about changing the way we live every single day. The choices we make now will determine whether humanity survives or not. It's not a question of technology. It's a question of will." Pope Francis, from the Vatican, echoed Elon's sentiments with a call for global solidarity and spiritual renewal. "We must remember that we are not separate from the earth. We are part of it. Our future depends on the choices we make today. This is not just an economic or political crisis. It is a moral one. It's a test of whether we, as a species, are willing to choose life over profit, sustainability over destruction." The response from the global community was overwhelming. In every corner of the world, citizens, young and old, were coming together to demand immediate action. Leaders were pressured by their people to deliver bold, transformative policies. But while this collective sense of urgency had brought people together, the road to real change was still fraught with obstacles. In a historic move, the United Nations held an emergency summit to address the escalating crisis. For the first time in decades, all 193 member states participated in a united effort to find solutions. At the forefront of this summit were Elon Musk and Pope Francis, who together had become the symbols of the new global alliance. The summit focused on three key areas: immediate climate action, fair distribution of technological advancements, and the establishment of a global framework for ethical governance. The proposals were ambitious, calling for sweeping changes in how the world's economies functioned and how natural resources were managed. One of the most important agreements was the creation of a global green fund, a financial initiative to support countries that were most vulnerable to climate change, particularly those in the global south. The fund would be financed by wealthy nations and corporations, particularly those who had historically contributed the most to environmental degradation. Elon Musk's companies, particularly Tesla and SpaceX, pledged their technologies to the cause. Tesla's solar power systems and energy storage solutions would be made available to countries in need, and SpaceX would assist in building sustainable infrastructure in remote and disaster-stricken areas. The pact also included unprecedented global commitments to end the use of fossil fuels. This would not be a gradual transition, as some had hoped, but a swift and decisive shift to renewable energy sources. For countries and corporations that resisted, the global community made it clear that their economic and political influence would be diminished, a powerful form of diplomacy to ensure compliance. As the world began to take action, the results of this global effort became increasingly evident. Within a year of the UN summit, the Global Green Fund had provided millions of dollars in aid to vulnerable nations, while simultaneously helping to establish sustainable energy solutions. In cities across the world, new technologies began to take hold: green buildings, electric transportation networks, and smart grids powered by renewable energy. The Global Green Fund also facilitated the creation of a Global Climate Corps, a volunteer-based organization dedicated to assisting with climate change mitigation and adaptation. People from all walks of life, from engineers to teachers to healthcare workers, signed up to contribute to this new vision of the future. By 2030, renewable energy had overtaken fossil fuels as the world's dominant energy source. The pace of technological advancements in areas like solar, wind, and battery storage far outstripped anyone's expectations, and many countries that had previously resisted the shift now became leaders in green energy production. But perhaps the most profound change was the shift in the global mindset. People everywhere were learning to live more sustainably, making conscious choices in their daily lives. Consumption patterns had begun to change, with an emphasis on reducing waste, using fewer resources, and living more simply. As the world moved into this new era, the legacy of Elon Musk, Pope Francis, and countless others who had championed the global pact became clear. The world had not just avoided collapse, it had reinvented itself. What had once seemed like an impossible dream was now a reality. The future, though still uncertain, held promise for a better, more equitable world. Elon Musk's vision of humanity as a multiplanetary species had not been abandoned. Space exploration continued to advance, but now with the goal of ensuring the long-term survival of humanity, whether on Earth or beyond. Mars, once seen as a distant frontier for the wealthy elite, was now viewed as a potential refuge for humanity, a place to escape in case of catastrophic failure on Earth. But Elon knew that the survival of humanity would depend on solving the problems here, on Earth, first. Pope Francis' message of care for creation resonated in every corner of society. His leadership had helped inspire a global culture of empathy, sustainability, and shared responsibility. His spiritual guidance had been instrumental in steering the world away from selfishness and toward a greater collective good. But the greatest lesson of all was the realization that change was possible, not just through technology or politics, but through human unity. When people came together, united by a common cause, even the greatest challenges could be overcome. As Elon Musk stood at the edge of a solar-powered city, overlooking a world transformed, he reflected on the journey that had brought humanity to this point. "It's not about the technology," he said. "It's about the people. We've changed the world, not because of our inventions, but because of our will to make the world a better place for everyone." Pope Francis, standing beside him, smiled gently. "The Earth is not ours to own, but to protect. And when we work together, we can create a future that honors both the planet and all of its inhabitants." The global transformation was now undeniable. The world, though battered by the trials it had endured, had emerged stronger, more united, and more conscious of the interconnectedness between humanity, the environment, and technology. What had begun with the Amazon fires, the passionate speeches by Elon Musk and Pope Francis, and the tireless efforts of millions had evolved into a new era, a new dawn for civilization. In the years following the historic Global Pact and the implementation of groundbreaking sustainability initiatives, humanity had begun to experience profound changes. The most visible of these was the transition to renewable energy, which had fundamentally altered the world's energy systems. No longer was oil the lifeblood of global economies. Solar, wind, and hydropower had taken their place as the dominant forces of energy generation. And with this shift, a new wave of innovation began to bloom. Cities around the world, once choked by pollution and smog, were now cleaner and greener. Electric vehicles and autonomous public transport systems became the norm. Skyscrapers and homes were designed with sustainability at their core. Solar panels adorned rooftops, energy-efficient appliances ran on smart grids, and urban gardens flourished in place of concrete jungles. But it was not just the environment that was changing. The social fabric of society had shifted too. Education systems had evolved to focus on sustainability, empathy, and innovation. People were learning how to live more consciously, making decisions that reflected their commitment to the planet and future generations. People were working together, transcending old political and ideological boundaries, to create a global society based on shared values of cooperation, justice, and care for the Earth. The United Nations, which had once struggled with divisions between powerful nations and developing countries, had transformed into a forum for global cooperation. It had become a place where leaders of all nations worked in harmony to ensure that the goals of the Global Pact were not just upheld, but expanded. The world's focus was no longer solely on economic growth for growth's sake, but on sustainable progress that prioritized the well-being of both people and the planet. Despite the incredible progress on Earth, Elon Musk's vision of humanity becoming a multiplanetary species was not forgotten. SpaceX had continued to make monumental strides towards space exploration, with Mars now a viable long-term goal for humanity. Mars was no longer the distant, unreachable planet it had once seemed to be. Musk's dream of establishing a human colony on the Red Planet had progressed from science fiction to a tangible, albeit complex, reality. SpaceX's successful test flights and the construction of the Mars orbital station represented a new era of space travel, one driven by the same principles that had guided Earth's transformation: sustainability, cooperation, and responsibility. Musk often spoke of Mars as the insurance policy for humanity, an opportunity to secure the species' future should anything go wrong on Earth. But he was also clear that the ultimate goal was not to escape Earth's problems, but to use Mars as a way to push the boundaries of human ingenuity and expand the frontiers of knowledge. As SpaceX prepared for its first crewed mission to Mars, the world watched in awe. The astronauts selected for the journey were not only pioneers in space exploration, but also representatives of humanity's collective dream. The mission was a symbol of hope, demonstrating what humanity could accomplish when working together with vision, commitment, and a willingness to face challenges head-on. As Pope Francis looked out over the Vatican gardens, he reflected on the incredible journey the world had taken. The Church, under his leadership, had played a crucial role in fostering a global ethos of care for creation, emphasizing that the Earth was a shared gift that needed to be protected for future generations. Pope Francis had become more than a religious figure. He was a moral compass for a world in crisis. His encyclical Laudato Si had not only called for environmental stewardship, but had also championed the idea that humanity's future was intertwined with the well-being of the planet. He had urged the world to embrace a new understanding of progress, one that was rooted in the values of compassion, humility, and justice. The Pope's collaboration with Elon Musk had bridged the gap between faith and technology, creating a partnership that transcended the traditional boundaries of politics, religion, and industry. Together, they had shown the world that the greatest challenges could be overcome through cooperation, dialogue, and a shared vision for the common good. Elon Musk, now more than just a tech mogul, had become a symbol of what it meant to dream big for the future of humanity. His innovations had catalyzed the transformation of the world's energy systems, transportation, and infrastructure. His focus on renewable energy, sustainable living, and space exploration had given humanity new hope for the future. But beyond the technology, beyond the achievements, Musk's most enduring legacy would be his belief in human potential. He had shown the world that the impossible could be made possible, not through individual brilliance, but through collective will. The final message came from both Elon Musk and Pope Francis, delivered together at a historic gathering in New York City, where the world's leaders, activists, and citizens had come together to mark the dawn of a new era. As they stood before an audience of millions, their words resonated with the collective consciousness of humanity. Elon and I stand before you today not as representatives of corporations or governments, but as two individuals who believe in the power of change, Pope Francis said, his voice calm but firm. The future of humanity is not in the hands of a few, but in the hands of all of us. We have the power to shape this world, not with weapons, not with greed, but with love, cooperation, and a deep respect for the Earth. Elon Musk nodded in agreement. The journey we've been on, the challenges we've faced, have taught us one simple truth. We can do anything if we work together. The world we've created is just the beginning. The road ahead will not always be easy, but as long as we remember that we are all in this together, there is nothing we cannot achieve. The crowd erupted into applause, the message clear. This was the beginning of a new chapter in human history, one where technology and faith, science and compassion worked hand in hand to create a world that was not just better, but sustainable, just, and compassionate. As the years unfolded, the lessons of the past remained etched in the collective memory of humanity. The global pact had been the catalyst for change, but it was the individual actions of countless people, each choosing to make a difference, that had truly created a new world. From the cities where green technologies had flourished, to the farthest reaches of space where humanity now looked to Mars as a second home. The legacy of the past years was a testament to the power of hope, resilience, and the collective will to build a better future. The world had faced its darkest hour, but it had emerged from the shadows with a new sense of purpose. The future was in their hands, and it was a future that would be built not on division, but on unity. In the end, humanity had proven that no matter the challenge, no matter the crisis, the greatest force in the universe was not technology, wealth, or power. It was the unwavering belief in the potential for a better tomorrow. And that belief would guide them, always. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?